This meeting has been provided by the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings of the Municipal Council for the year 2023, which was published as a legal advertisement in the Herald News and the Record on December 12, 2022. Further notice of this meeting was given on Friday prior to the meeting by posting said notice on the bulletin board at City Hall and on the City of Clifton's website, which notice stated that formal action may or may not be taken on the matters to come before the Municipal Council. Roll call.
Councilman Gibson?
Here.
Councilman Quatrick?
Present.
Councilman McDonough?
Here.
Councilman Murphy? Councilman Pino?
Here.
Councilman Sechkola?
Here.
Mayor Kowski?
Here.
Quorum.
We'll start, we'll start as always with the action items. We'll try to stay on point, on topic. We don't want to get off of it. So whatever is the action item we're going to discuss, let's try to stay with that, okay? So action item 1, 2023 temporary budget increase for the municipal budget R073.
Move it, Mayor.
Second.
Any objections? A2, city engineer recommends execution of NJ DOT funding agreement for design assistance for 2020.
Move it, Mayor.
Second.
Any objections? A3, LSRP Services. City engineer recommends extending contract with Rohan Tatis of Environmental Resolutions.
Move it for discussion purposes only. Second.
Discussion?
Mayor, through you to the city
Go
manager.
ahead.
Mr. Galano, is this the same company, and I'm going way back in time, when I believe you were first as our city engineer, and we were able to reduce the environmental cost for the firehouse? But it seems, right, but it seems that firehouse number 6, it's going up again. Is that correct? Am I correct with that?
Well, it depends on what services are required for the city to provide in accordance with the DEP regulations. So there are certain type of reporting that you have to do, and this coming year is when all these are due. So
Okay,
that's why
'cause
you
it is-
notice it's a little higher than.
Yeah, I think a lot higher.
Yes.
Are we anywhere near solving this? It's groundwater contamination,
I
correct?
have a feeling that we're going to be testing and in perpetuity. That's my impression. It just doesn't seem like that it's cleaning up. Many times the site will clean itself up, or many times you introduce bugs and things to eat
Right.
we're not at that point yet.
My God, how many years has it been?
I've been here for 13 years, so.
And I
was
remember-
one of the first ones I took over.
Right, and I remember back then, you were very instrumental in reducing that cost and getting a new, this is the same company that we've been
He has
using?
moved since we originally engaged him. He went to this other company, but it's the same LSRP. That's
Okay,
on.
I thought it was a different name, that's why I was asking. Well, okay, I mean, obviously we have people there, we have to provide for their safety, so I'll move it.
Okay, hearing no objections.
Second.
Second, somebody is second.
No, that was for discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Now,
A4, authorization to approve award contract for 2 new Fireliner vocational chassis. Move it.
Second.
And-
Mayor,
I have
through
a
you
que-
to, one question.
Yeah, Councilwoman Sedgwick.
The total amount of this purchase is $270,000. If we, I presume this is a lot less than if we had to buy the whole fire truck, the whole chassis and the body and everything else, right?
Right. It was determined that it's more cost effective to buy the chassis and then to buy the part that goes on.
On top, right.
Yeah, and then assemble it this way. So.
Okay. I
The
just
only
want,
thing, if you notice, some of these items keep repeating themselves.
That's
And that's
gonna be my
because,
next
so
question.
when you want to use a national co-op, the first thing you have to do is you got to have the 10-day notice that you want to advertise. You have to advertise to solicit, to use the co-op. Even though it's already, the pricing is already established, you have to advertise it for 10 days. Then it comes back to council. Nobody challenge it. Do you want to move forward? So in essence, you get these requests possibly 3 or 4 times from when we start to we actually purchase the vehicle.
Mayor, through you
Councilman
to
Gibson.
the city manager. And so does that, I'm reading the last paragraph here, just forgive me, I'm reading it, and I just seemed like a run-on sentence, like procure what?
To buy it. What she's saying is at this point, we're ready to purchase, so they need your authorization.
Okay, we have a second motion. Okay, action item 5, authorization to award contract to Insight Street Media for municipal bus shelters.
Second.
Hearing no objections. A6, amending the award for professional architectural services contract to George Herald.
Move it only for discussion purposes.
Discussion?
I need a second.
Second,
Which motion are you seconding?
yours.
Someone seconding the discussion?
Discussion.
No, there was a motion and a second for the action item itself, and now it's open for discussion.
Mayor, through you to the city manager. Why are we, maybe I don't understand architectural, but I would have thought that architectural services are done prior to the award of the contract. This, and that is going to be my follow-up, but we're staying on topic, so if I have to do it during my council privilege, I will. But we've awarded the contract for this is for Firehouse Number 1, the repairs. Now, all of a sudden, we're getting another bill for George Held for Architects to be construction administration phase. Well, the construction is almost done, because last time I heard, it was supposed to, in one of the public meetings, Mr. Valano, you said that the firehouse should open in February. So now, we're getting a $10,000 bill where he will perform contract administration, which include contract bidding and negotiations?
Well, it's actually, we hit a bit of a snag. What happened was, everything is proceeding according to the original scope. When we got to the Purvis is an alarm system that they use, that the fire department uses, is basically, it tells you, I don't want to get into the details, but it basically warns you that, hey, we have to respond to a call. The company that the subcontractor, and I don't want to get into much of the detail because this is going to get challenged.
Well, do we have to go into executive session with that?
I don't know, I would defer, so basically,
All right,
what
wait.
this is, additional services required because of a redesign that deals primarily with the
Okay, then
alarm
if
system.
this is a subcontractor that was at full, and we now have to spend more money, maybe then we need to go into executive session to talk about that. Because if it's potential litigation,
Is there a potential?
you just said it could be challenged.
I want to hear it from him.
I think David's been more involved, this is the one that the, if
Not
you
so
notice-
much, I thought this had a proceeding either way, that's I think a separate issue. That would definitely be a closed session.
Okay, so
Okay.
then this
Okay,
is
then-
related to
Contract, this
that.
is design and contract administration.
Right, but he has to redesign certain things because of this,
Well, then I want to make a motion to table this till we go into executive session and discuss it. I don't want to vote on it unless I know what I'm voting on.
Okay, hearing no second. I'll entertain a motion to pass A6.
It's already been moved.
Okay, thank you. Any objections?
Yes, I'm not voting for it.
So can I have a separate roll call on this, please?
Councilman Gibson.
Yes.
Councilman Coloj.
Yes to the out-of-scope work.
Councilman Latona.
I'm gonna vote no.
Councilwoman Murphy. Yes. Councilwoman Pino.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sedgwick.
No.
Mayor Grabowski.
Yes.
Vote is 5 yes, 2 no. Motion carried.
A7, authorization to award purchase tires and recap tires off the New Jersey State contracts.
Move it.
Move for discussion, I got a question.
Discussion.
You got a motion and
Yeah,
a second.
motion,
to move
second
it.
for
Now there would be a
discussion,
discussion.
When this goes out to bid, who are we buying these tires from? So we get a bid,
So this is a recap of tires, so not necessarily buying a new tires, utilizing this service to recap the tires. They just put like a.
right, the rebate, I understand, what I'm saying is when we go off the state contract to get the bid, which I'm in favor of, from there, do we then try to get a Clifton business to do it? Is it getting
Well,
done locally?
So typically you use a state contract or a national co-op because the service has already been bid. There's a bit of a process you have to follow, but if you find that the cost is less somewhere else, well, you don't necessarily have to buy it through the state or the national co-op. Those are just avenues of using that can make it easier too. But you still have to shop for a lower price, I guess is the
I
point.
understand, but when we get this price, do we try to give it to a Clifton business first, is my question.
No, we don't do it that way,
No,
no.
because the Clifton business would need to be in the
On the
co-op.
list.
Correct.
Right, you need to be on the
Counselor, if you
list.
Look at the resolution, it's a Linden Company, custom
Right.
Bandag. That's who won the
Right,
state.
I understand, I just wanted to see if it was an option that if we got a certain price, Clifton businesses,
If a Clifton business could provide a lower price, but that's something that we would entertain, but it is a bit of a.
That would be a little different. So it's the idea of the state contracts with the co-ops is the price is set by them, so you have to go with that company under those terms.
so you have to go with that company also, not just that price.
Yes, or you'd have to bid it, and then it would be whoever bids the lowest responsible bidder against the shop.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
It's already been moved and seconded.
Hearing no objections. A8, authorization to advertise notice of intent to remount type 3 existing
Move it.
and.
Second.
Hearing no objections. A9, authorization to approve entering into.
Move it for discussion purposes only. Second.
Which motion are you seconding? Okay, now we can talk.
Discussion. Councilwoman.
Yes, on section 4, it sounds like the county has no program yet for styrofoam. If I read this. Dave, I don't know, Mayor, for you to legal? It looks like they don't have a program. It looks like they're gonna be starting a program. Am I correct?
It looks like they weren't able to start it, that's why they're giving it to us. That was my impression.
Okay, and then under number 5 is requirements of the city that we have to submit to the county tonnage reports. Who will do this? I hope this doesn't.
Recycling coordinator. They
Okay,
normally send, the recycling coordinator is responsible to send these notices out to the different agencies and so forth, then report to the state as well. So the recycling coordinator sends the numbers to the county recycling person, and then for else, we do reports to the various agencies.
number 6, signage, where will these signs go?
The signage will go, if it's going to be done in one of the barns at the recycling center, then the signage will be displayed on the barn.
Do we have to get approval from New Jersey Preservation?
I kind of don't think so, but we'll check with them.
Okay. And then number 9 is insurance. Will this be in any additional cost of insurance to the city?
No, they provide their standard certificate of insurance. The coverages we already have for our facility.
Okay, and Mayor, for you, I'd like a separate roll call on this one if it's moved for approval.
Okay, we'll have a motion to approve.
It has been moved.
It's been done.
So, separate roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay?
Yes.
Councilman Lozano?
Yes.
Councilman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Pino?
Yes.
Councilman Sedekula?
No.
Mayor Grabowski?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, action item 10, authorization to approve renewal of entertainment license for Athenia Veterans Post.
Move it.
Second.
Hearing no objections. Okay, 11, authorization to amend contract for Total Primary Care Center.
Move it.
Move for discussion.
Second.
Sorry.
Seconding, Councilwoman Murphy.
Okay, discussion, Councilman.
Just, I see Totowa here, I know we have Medi Center in Clifton, and then we have Summit and others. Why are we sending everything and everyone to
The
Totowa?
Ameti Center that used to be in Clifton has now moved to Totowa. It's the same organization, but now they're in Totowa. So we're staying with the same organization.
And is that also, are they under a contract, or
Yes.
why do we use a Medi Center? And is that every so many years, or how does that work?
I believe it's a yearly
It
contract.
just started January 1st. I think the last council might have renewed it in December.
We did.
Okay.
We did.
So it'd be next year, then obviously to look at, because we have Summit, we have Hackensack, we have so many people in town, to move everyone and everything to Totowa when we have local medical places. Okay.
It's also the, not experience, but more the, how they handle our claims or how they handle it. So it's not necessarily, the cost is lower, but also how they treat us.
Councilwoman.
Through you to the city manager. Is this the one that was on Broad Street?
This was on,
1255 Broad.
So that building is still there, didn't they just change the name?
Hackensack,
Hackensack.
Meridian took it over,
Okay.
and these folks moved to
Okay,
Totowa.
all right, thanks.
Any objections? A 12, authorization to approve alternate prosecutors.
Move it for discussion purposes.
Move it.
Second, Joe's.
Discussion, Councilwoman?
This is new to have alternate prosecutor. No, we have,
What's required is that whenever we use another prosecutor to cover it, they have to be named in our ordinance. So what we're doing is adding to the list of people who are authorized to cover.
who is in our ordinance now?
I couldn't even tell you, there's a couple. It's, they just get a flat rate, I think it's $175 to cover the.
Do we know how many people are on that list now?
I believe 2 or
So
3
why do
more.
we need 2 more if we have several on it already?
Because they're having difficulty because those prosecutors are prosecutors in other towns, so on short
So are
notice-
these.
That's what I'm saying, so the more you have to choose from, rather than have to cancel a court session if the prosecutor's sick or injured.
Understand, thank
A
you,
bigger list to pick from.
thank you. Then, fine.
Any objections? A 13, authorization to approve salary increase for the planning board secretary.
Second,
Any objections? A 14, authorization to approve recommendations by advisory committee on civil rights.
second,
Hearing no objections. A 15, authorization to approve recommendations by Towers Committee. Hearing no objections.
Motion second, thank you.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
As noted in Ms. Regan's letter, some of these issues may need some further discussion. We'll put it on.
A 16, authorization to approve moving alternates on.
Move it,
Second.
Hearing no objections. A 17, authorization to approve reappointment of members.
move it,
Second.
Hearing no objections. A 18, authorization to approve appointment of members.
Move
to
it.
Second.
Objections. I'll try to go faster. 19, authorization to approve appointment of member to Traffic Safety Council.
Move it.
second,
No objections. A 20, authorization to approve appointment of Director of Safety Town.
second,
No objections. 21, authorization to approve appointment of members to Recycling Committee.
move it,
second,
No objections. Authorization to approve appointment member of Clifton Action Committee.
move it,
Delaware.
Second.
No objections. A 23, authorization to approve appointment
Move
of
it.
member.
Second.
No objections. Authorization to approve renewal of transient merchant and pawnbroker license.
Move it.
Second.
No objections. A 25, authorization to approve renewal of florist license.
move it,
Second.
Okay. A 26, authorization to approve block party on Nugent Drive, March 7th.
I have some questions with that, Mayor. First of all, when we usually get a block party, we have a list of the neighbors that have signed on for it. And in March, who has a block party outside? And who has a party from 10 o'clock in the morning till 8 p.m.?
21 Nugent.
What's
the date? I don't
20
remember.
Nugent, 20 Nugent. Thank you, Bill. Were the police notified of this? They were. Were we sure the neighbors know about this?
No.
We're not sure? No. Okay, then I make a motion to,
Typically, Councilwoman, what we do is a request comes in, and the Madam Clerk sends it to the police and all the other. So at this point, we don't have to necessarily get a signature from everyone involved.
I
The request
understand
comes in,
that.
so you're approving the
Typically, we
request.
have, but Nancy just said we have no idea of knowing if the neighbors have approved this or not. Typically, when we get a request for a block party, the person puts it, and it has the list of the neighbors that have said, we would like to have this block party. We're having one person that's saying they want to have a block party, but we have no way of knowing if the neighbors know about this. And it's also from 10 o'clock in the morning till 8 p.m.
And what I'm saying, not necessarily you have to provide that
that
list.
correct, Nan?
They don't have to provide the list?
Typically.
Typically.
Sometimes they will tell me that they're going to put a flyer in everybody's, but usually if you have a block party, they check with
You've already called them.
all the neighbors.
Tuesday?
Yeah.
7th.
10 o'clock in the morning till 8
March
p.m.
7th is a Tuesday. That's a weekday too. I'm just, I see it here, I just didn't realize it was a
March
Tuesday.
7th is a Tuesday, yes.
My brain automatically thought it was a weekend until You just asked the question.
All right, so Mayor, I will amend my motion that I made on this to tentatively approve this pending submission of the neighborhood list.
Second.
Any
So
objections
the
with
clerk can
that?
reach out to them and say, congratulations, you got it, but we need the list or you don't got it.
Item 27, authorization to approve request by downtown Clifton to hold farmers market on Wednesday.
Move it.
Second.
Any objections? 28, authorization to approve request to place pod on street.
Move it.
Any objections? 829, request from Shannon Rose to extend entertainment hours on March 17th.
I make a motion to deny it, because this is till 2 a.m., and they want to have a St. Patrick's Day month-long celebration. We have never allowed somebody to have entertainment till 2 a.m.
Is it only for that night?
2 nights,
2
Oh,
nights,
for 2 nights, the
but
weekend.
it's still to 2 a.m. So I make a motion to deny.
Is that when the bars close at 2 a.m.?
3 a.m. in Clifton.
3.
But our entertainment is till 1 a.m., 1, right, isn't it?
For an hour, right?
1, right.
There's a motion to deny.
Well, Mayor, you already have a motion and a second, so it'd be inappropriate to have 2 motions competing. You need to vote on the first one.
All right, so then, let's have a motion to approve. Roll call.
All right, this is to approve.
Correct.
Councilman Gibson,
Yes.
Councilman Collegian,
Yes.
Councilman Toman,
Just like we would, I guess, do like on New Year's Eve with an extension for an hour, I vote yes for St. Patrick's Day.
Councilwoman Murphy. Councilman Pino,
Yes.
Councilman Santa
No.
Mayor Patsy,
Yes.
motion carried.
830, authorization to approve renewal of vending machine license.
Move it.
There are no objections. Late items. 831, authorization to approve appointment.
Move
Ranking
it.
Member.
Second.
Just a question for discussion on these. On some of these being brought up now, is there a reason why they're coming up? Like for me, when I think of late item, it's something that's pertinent that can't wait for another meeting where we have time to look and discuss. So I'm just curious for educational purposes on late items.
Well, specifically on 831, CATV has been vacant for a while, so we got it. Put it on as a late item, let's get rid of it and get it done and get these people appointed. And the Finance Bond Advisory Board, you guys have to speak.
Well, we're good. 831 first, any objections? Okay, so 832 is authorization to approve appointing member to the Finance Bond Advisory
Move it.
Board.
Discussion?
I'll
Is there a
second. I'll second.
Discussion. In all the years, and I know that it is listed as to have public members on the Finance Bond Committee, but I don't believe that the public should be involved in that, because there are things that are discussed that are to the privy of this council, no different than the Police Committee and the Fire Committee. So if that requires changing the way the committee is set up, but I have never, ever remembered anyone, even before our times, any of us at this table, having a member of the public at the bond committee. We discuss rates, we discuss things that are not in the public domain yet. So if that requires changing and I'm the first one for transparency, but in this case, I don't believe that this is appropriate. Mr. Valano, do you have any feelings on that? And legal?
Well, you're correct. We never had a member of the public, as long as I've been on council, and I'm sure the engineer as well. We never had a member of public sit in on a bond finance committee, because in essence, what you're doing is you're recommending to the council how to spend money, how to spend capital money. And in essence, what we do is we get a list of requests from different departments, and that's how they generate it. We bring it to the meeting, and then we sort of go through, and we could afford this, and we can't afford that. Personally, I don't know how this committee was created, but my opinion is that you should not allow the members of public on this committee, because it's really unique. It's almost a branch of council, so I don't, my personal belief is that the public should not be
It's a
participating
new
in it.
committee?
No, it's been in existence ever since. But throughout this, every time we've met, of all the years that I met, as a city manager, we never had a member of public.
No one's ever applied for it.
How many times have we met in the past
Can we
year?
just
Every year.
check to make sure if is it on here that it's allowed? I
Yes.
just didn't get there yet, so I'm just
Yes,
looking
on
for.
my committee sheet, on my committee sheet, it says that the ordinance says there are 9 members, 5 public and 3 liaisons, and the city manager.
May I just,
So,
Mayor,
if
through
it's-
the city
I'm
manager,
okay with
sure,
it, it's there.
Council?
are we maybe mixing two different things? We have the bond advisory committee, that's the subcommittee of the council.
That's-
Is it possible that this is actually a different committee? I didn't,
I
No,
was
it
gonna
says-
suggest that because
It
it
says
doesn't make
bond
any sense.
advisory
No.
committee.
we
Yeah.
may just call our committee that, and this might be a separate group.
Right.
I didn't have a chance to look at the.
Yeah, I
This,
think-
this committee used to be called the bond committee, but because we talked about other finance type issues, we called it a bond/finance committee.
So why did we put it out to the public so that somebody from the public could?
Whoever created the committee put this out. For all the time I've been on council, I've been as your city manager, we never had a public
Never.
person participate in these discussions.
Because as Mr. Valano was saying,
Openings for public?
no,
Either one of
Never
these,
came up.
finance or bond.
Never came up.
Never.
Looking for it right
Maybe
now.
we should check into this first before
Yeah.
we do something.
well, then I make a motion to table this.
Second.
You gonna rescind? Oh, you're gonna
They're
rescind?
they're tabling.
Table.
Okay.
Okay, no objections. Okay, that concludes
Thank you.
action items.
Is that the fire alarm?
So we'll be one. Okay, discussion items, we have 3 today, so let's start with the one. There's gonna be a discussion on flag raisings.
Mayor,
Yes,
through you, we're on D1 now, right?
yes.
Okay, through you. I'd like to make a motion to table this, bring it back to, well, I know it was mentioned that it was committee, but I can't seem to find the flag raising committee. So I'd like to make a motion to table this and maybe create a AHA committee to discuss this topic, which I'd like to request to be on it.
The committee, we have 3 people on that committee.
Which committee? I
The
didn't
flag
see it on
raising
here.
committee.
It's not on there.
It's one of those
of
committees
those.
we,
It was one of those.
It was
No,
one of
more-
these.
5 years,
extra
5 or
ones
6
that-
years ago was committee.
yes.
I
Right.
think you were on it.
Murphy, Gibson,
it
and
was-
Grabowski,
it
it was one of those that were just
Councilman
made.
Gibson,
So
when
could I
needed.
have a list of that one as well? Because I know we said it was the census committee and the cannabis committee, but this committee I was not aware of. So I figured it was on here. So when you have a moment, if I could get a list of that, but I would like to have this discussion table to get it back to committee because there was no input from the communities that are being affected by this. So can any of my colleagues second this for it to be?
I had some questions too before, can I ask a question before we second it? Or,
she's asking to table, so.
Well, it's a discussion item at this point, so with no
Yeah,
motion to
right.
table, we can continue to discuss.
There's no second to table, right?
There's no second.
We're not
No
cutting-
second to table.
We're not cutting anyone off.
Yes,
from
you're right.
So-
Go ahead, yeah.
okay. So I did have some questions, I didn't go through this on, I did see there was one on it said nothing in July or August on weekends, and then I seen there's one on Sunday in August, so that caught my eye, so I did see a bunch of errors.
Or were they
I-
errors?
Well, I don't know. It said there would be no flag raisings in the summer on weekends, but then I see there's one on Sunday, August 13th. So I did have a bunch of questions, so I'm okay with tabling it till we can figure it
Well,
out.
if the request is for it to go back to committee. And I think this has to have input from the individuals, the communities that this is being affected. Because this is, I mean, I didn't want to get into it right now, but this is, based on what is being proposed and presented, this is not fair across the board. And but 90% of the communities that are being affected are the brown communities with their flag raisings. So, I mean, I know we have some of those communities here, but I'm hoping that this can go back to committee and we can continue the discussion there.
Oh,
Well, quite frankly, I was one of the ones that wrote this, and the thing is that we didn't put it to go against anyone. We were trying to enhance and help the people of their, for their anniversaries, so that this way they would be able to plan moreover on the weekend. We always want to have it before. We felt that for simplicity, if we had it on a Wednesday or whatever day of the week it is, most people are home during the week, and then whatever anniversary they are going to have on that weekend, celebrating their anniversary, they would be able to be free to do whatever they have to do for wherever they want to go, whatever they want to plan, whatever celebration they wanted to have. It would free them up for the weekend, and make it much better for them. And as a matter of fact, as in my narrative, I even said even people would even maybe come, even if it's for educational purposes, to come to see how the flag raisings are. A lot of people, especially during the time June and plan vacations and things in advance. This would actually help them out. So it wasn't anything negative. It was actually a very positive thing to try to help our community to be able to have flag raisings. And if you look at it, every single weekend would be filled. And there are sometimes we even have to do 3 in the same week. So, and I think that we're even getting additional ones now. So at what point do we have to say, like, listen, we're trying to accommodate everybody, and we want to make it good for everyone, and we want to bring everybody from Clifton together. But at this point, we're getting so many of them, and getting we have to try to do it, say, during the week where we have it. Okay, everyone will know. Okay, on your particular anniversary, the Wednesday before, or the Thursday before, or whatever you want. In addition, this was for discussion purposes. I had to plug in times. 10 o'clock in the morning might be very early for a lot of people. It may be very good for people, but at that time, these are all things that we have to negotiate on. But at least we have something to go for each and every person or every ethnic group that comes up. So we're trying to make it a positive thing on it.
So if you can.
And by the way, so with the committee part of it, we go to all of them. So as we go to them, not only do I enjoy going to every single one of them, but at the same time, in my mind, I have to think, how do we make it better? So this is the things that we have discussed through through the committee, which is what we did. I guess it is 5 years ago. I don't know. I guess time flies when you're having fun, but at the same time. So these are the things to try to make it as good as we possibly can. No offense to whatever color, and I don't even want to go there because you know how passionate I am about going to the. No, I'm not done.
Okay.
So you know how passionate I am about going to the flag raising. So it's not against anybody. It's to help everybody. Okay, done.
Thank you. So, if I may, and this is exactly why I reached out to Ray and discussed about this, because I wanted to get, and I've been calling you to get some insight as exactly what transpired, because I really do believe that this was in no way your intent to hurt any particular community. That all being said, in my opinion, where this committee went wrong is not asking for input for those committees. You're assuming you're making their life easier. But what actually is happening, you're actually making this so difficult to the point that many of these communities won't be able to raise the flag here. So, for example, just earlier, we asked for if input was for a block party that one of the residents just has to have. Mary just asked for input. If we asked input from the neighbors that will be affected by a block party, right? So if this council was that thoughtful to ask for input, how could we not ask for input from the communities that are being affected? Now, I will tell you, because I am, aside from being a councilwoman, I do belong to one of those organizations, Alianza Ecuatoriana, and I will tell you, doing a flag raising on a week, during a weekday, even if it's at 6, 7 o'clock at night, doesn't work because the individuals who put this flag raising work in the evening. And a lot of our communities cannot attend during the week. So it really feels like the convenience is more to this council in the summer months than it is really to these communities. And this is why I didn't want to have this conversation now. I wanted it to get it back to the committee to give you guys an opportunity to really look at both sides, because I think by mistake, this wasn't really, not a mistake, but I'll give everyone the benefit of the doubt that this wasn't really taken, the whole picture was taken into account. If you look on here, there is no equality, because now you have, on Saturday, you have that you can't have it, and like, Councilman Latona just pointed out, you have one of the communities you're agreed to on Sunday. So, it could be seen like this is somewhat targeted. Then you have,
The Indian community.
then you have like the Polish community, they're doing it on Saturday. Then you have all the other communities. So it's just like, and just for historical purposes, the reason why a lot of the South American countries are around the same time is because our independence, Simón Bolívar independent us all, the same individual. So it was around the same time, which is why we celebrate. And this community, our community's culture, which we're proud to celebrate too. So, but there's some things that I think I can go with, the time frame and having that and more organization for that, for sure. But for us, this council to impose when we want you to celebrate your culture, I think it's overreaching of government. And I think this committee needs to go back and get some input from the individuals that are gonna be affected.
Rose, if I could say, this was put on for a discussion item. How everyone found out that it was going against anyone, which it's not, is beyond me.
It's public.
This was strictly says flag raisings. And there's 17 flag raisings, okay? So it's not singling out anyone. Like you said, the Polish is on Saturday. Well, if the council, they would have to abide by whatever it is. But this is discussion, to come up with rules. This wasn't to make anything written in stone. There was a lot of things we have to talk about. Times. Is food allowed? We've been allowing things like this, but obviously food is not allowed, not without permission of the Board of Health. And so these are things that have to be discussed on time, how long. So this purpose of this discussion is to come up with some guidelines and sit back and come up with some ruling. And yes, on the weekends in the summer, people are family oriented, so we would have to see, okay, can we readjust this for July and August? But these are all part of discussion items that we're actually discussing now. We were gonna put these all together, see where it's going, and then we go from here.
So are we not want to go back to committee? We want to have discussion right now because we can have it. I can continue. I have a lot of discussion points, but if we don't want to go back to committee, we can do this now.
So, Mayor,
Yeah.
Mayor, through you, it was brought up that the Polish is on a Saturday,
Right.
but let me remind.
It's in October.
Yeah, it's in October. Yeah, I know that.
It's November.
November.
So it's outside what we had in June, July. So, yes, we can accommodate that. Because it is a discussion item,
Right.
this is why we can move dates, we can move times, we can do all that stuff. That's
Discuss.
why it's
By no means is this report suggesting that any
This isn't
community or
set
any
in
flags,
stone. This
it
is
has to be
just,
on that date. That was just a template. It wasn't saying, we were saying, well, the basic, this was that there's so many coming up and there's a lot more. Eventually, someone's gonna want that Saturday, that Sunday, and we're not gonna be able to give it to them. So what do we do
It's
now?
already happened. And the
Right,
person
so-
would just have to change the date. And there's been times, if you recall, I don't have to tell you, this is your third term, that there's been two flag raisings on the same day, which is why we even got 2 polls now, not including the third one with the American flag. Because this should be something we should be celebrating, that we have so many different communities wanting to raise their flag in the city of Clifton. And instead of us making it difficult for it to happen, because remembering, we are constantly speaking about the fact that we are trying to engage the minority community, right? So
And we do.
so us limiting them when they can come and celebrate.
Well, actually, we're
is-
not limiting.
Well, it
We're
is, because
suggesting
you're
alternate dates.
telling
We're
someone
not saying
that,
they can't.
you're telling someone that if you wanna celebrate, you have to celebrate it the day you pick, the hours you pick, and under your terms. And
No,
it's.
we're not saying that either.
What?
We're saying that we're giving you alternatives. We're not saying you have to pick any of these.
Oh, so this is, so if they say, no, we don't wanna do this, then okay, no problem, go back to the norm,
No,
is
no,
that
I'm
what you're saying?
The purpose of this discussion is we have to come up with some guidelines because we have 17 flag raisings now, okay? It occupies a lot of time. It costs the city money to do it in overtime. So we have to look at, there might be 5 more next year. So what do we do with these? So the purpose of this is to come up with guidelines, whether it's time, whether it's dates. We are having this discussion.
Okay, so let's come up with the guidelines.
So while we're here, can we take this template, reach out to these different communities, and if it works for 9 of them, then it works for 9 and we can look at, make adjustments for the others? Like, I don't
think Councilman
understand.
Gibson only did this because he was just trying to.
Right. Because for
He wasn't saying
me,
this is Britain, it's saying, just trying to say, let's patch in this, let's patch in that.
because there's certain things for me, like I think it should be 2 hours, you know, like if someone's coming, we shouldn't be, you know, rushing them in, rushing them out. So for me, an hour and 15 minutes personally was one of the things was 2 hours. Another thing, you know, if you're saying it's a health department issue, I understand not cooking or food, but someone bringing
That's
desserts
not our
or
rule. That's
drinks or
how we cannot
waters.
Bring food made at home.
You could bring packaged food. If it's something that you're cooking or it's open, then I have to have a health officer come in on that day
Right.
for the purpose of inspection. Which means then,
each community
then
know.
the community
Because I
will
mean,
have to
different
pay.
Well, that's what this
Right?
purpose
We go
of
to
this
different
is.
groups, they have desserts.
We have to come up with some kind of guidelines for these flag, because we're getting so many, that we have to come up with times, with regulations, because eventually, we could wind up with a lot of flag raisings, and we don't want to offend anyone. Yes, Bill?
I just want to let you know that it was brought up about there was a Sunday, and it happened to be the Indian.
Right.
That's only because if you look at the guidelines on the last page, it has to do with, we're gonna have August 10th, 13th, and 14th. We had to put them in where their anniversary would be.
Of course.
So the fact of the matter is, it was kind of like forced, where somebody had to be on, we took a Sunday, and it just so happened that it was the Indian that happened.
But do you see how this, how we're complicating something that, or we're creating an issue that wasn't, in the sense of scheduling? None of these organizations, and again, I can speak from experience because I am involved in flag raising for the Ecuadorian community. We work together with the other communities to ensure if they pick that date first, okay, we'll make arrangements. And I am not, I mean, I agree with the time frame. I will be honest, the main thing on this proposal for the communities that are being affected is that this council is dictating when they're gonna have their celebration. You're not probably gonna get any pushback, and I like to say, I can say this confidently in regards to, okay, no more food, it has to be sealed because we have to find the guidelines for the health department, completely respect and understand the rule. Okay, water, obviously we wanna serve water, okay, all that. We even respect the fact that the start and end time. I think 2 hours is fair. The start time, if for whatever reason they can't start on time, is not here or there, the end time has to be respected as the end time, okay? But the problem is, again, you know, you and I can appreciate you're thinking that you're making their life easier, but it's not. It's actually complicating it. And the communities want to have the ability or the flexibility to schedule the flag raising when it's convenient for their community to celebrate it, as long as it's available, and that includes weekends. And I can appreciate that this council wants to have the summer, a little bit of summer to themselves. I mean, I have 8 children at home. If anyone wants to have some summer, is me. But I also understand that when I decided to run for office, that was something I had to be willing to give up. So, you know, this is where we're talking about compromise. Let's compromise on the time as far as you have to end by that time, the food, but the date is not something, at least for myself, and I can tell you for sure that a lot of the communities are being affected. That's not a compromise for them.
The communities can pick any date they want. They can pick, I looked up all the dates. Dominican Republic is Monday, February 27th. They can pick whatever date they want, just not a Saturday or Sunday in July or August.
So they can't pick any day they
Any
want.
other date they can pick.
So it's-
September and in June, whenever, but in July and August, that's what we think is fair for all of us.
well, for all of us, but it's not about all of us, it's about the communities that we represent. And that's where I think this council is getting it really mixed up. If you guys are being self-serving by saying, well, it doesn't work for me for the summer, so you're gonna have to
You
accommodate
can
me.
do it in the summer, just not on Saturday or
Why-
Sunday.
Why not Saturdays or Sunday, when it
Because
helps
that's-
them?
Because that's when family time is on Saturday
But
and
this is
Sunday.
family time for our community, this is how we celebrate,
But
this
we're-
is our family.
Just on that, we're not all gonna make, like, I'm still in the National Guard, so I'm never around the first weekend of the month. I miss plenty of flag raisings. I don't think there's any date we can all pick that we're all gonna be able to go.
Billy and Ray and I
So-
have not missed any flag raisings.
I
And it's a bit
understand.
much in the summer to go every weekend to
No,
a flag
that-
raising.
that's what I'm saying, I don't think we're slighting a community that none of us can be expected to not go on vacation, not make flag raisings. If we're away on vacation, wherever we are, it's family time, none of us are gonna, if we're gonna try to pick a time to say, we're gonna pick these days because we're gonna go to every one of them, well, then it's
I-
about us and not them, so.
Yeah, through you. I get what you're saying, Tone, but the thing is that we want to go to the flag raisings. So the thing is that it's much easier for all of us to get during the week, to get to the flag raisings so that it's not where we'll be away for the week and we're just not gonna make it. We wanna be there, we wanna support our people from the community. And I think that together, and by the way, we always made the time prior to your anniversary, so that this way, we would have the flag up and running, as I would call, have your flag up and running prior to your anniversary in celebration of your anniversary.
You know,
So-
do you realize that at these flag raisings, the council are guests? We are guests to their flag raisings. So although.
And I wanna be there, by the way.
Right, and I can, and believe me, the communities appreciate that you make every effort and you have been there. I know that you haven't missed one flag raising in the Colombian community, and it's greatly noted. But that all being said, again, we are their guest there, okay? Like, it's as me, for example, I wasn't here for the 4th of July. I left, I think, 2 days before to go to Ecuador. But I would have loved to be here to celebrate as a council member in the city. Should I have said, hey, you're gonna have to move it 2 days early because I won't be here? No, right? It's the 4th of July. This is the United States independence. If I can't make it, I can't make it. I shouldn't ask you to change it so it's convenient for me. So, and maybe that's a heck of an example, but
So, again, can we make a motion to reach out to all these
Well, I
groups?
think Councilman Coolidge wants to.
Go ahead, sorry.
I appreciate that. I've passed over a few times on this. Look, sending it back to committee, I don't think makes much sense. The committee's made a recommendation, and it's time to make a decision, so, personally, and I'm going to make the motion, that the events, flag raisings, have a 2-hour limit, that they be scheduled sometime between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., and that they are a weekend throughout the year.
I'm sorry, weekend throughout the year?
Weekend throughout the year. I would need a second.
Second.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So that means any,
Take a roll.
they can have any day.
They can have it any day. But they have to do it between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. as a start time, and it's a 2-hour event.
And we have to add something about food.
You said no.
Well,
There was gotta be added for no outside food.
As
not
long as-
another
If
part.
you need an amendment, Mayor, to amend the motion to
That they have to
include no
follow the
outside food.
required food recommendations of the Board of Health, which means, you know, a lot of people, they cook it at home, you can't.
Sealed and
It has to be
bottled.
sealed,
yeah.
or if it's food, it has to come from a licensed vendor.
Okay.
Okay, you can't make it at home, package it and bring it. You
So
can't do that.
I'll
It has to
amend-
be from,
I'll amend my motion to
No, but
include
let me
that.
just get clarification, that
Separate-
even if
sorry.
it's from a licensed vendor, even if it's
yeah,
still.
sorry,
If I may,
yeah.
why don't we make a condition upon that the organization, folks, if we could, we can't talk in the audience. So, what we want to do is, whoever the organization, if they're looking to have food, they should call the health officer and get from him what you're allowed to do. Because these interpretation, what ends up happening is, technically, all you could bring in is something that's packaged in a sealed plastic bag, sealed. So what prevents you from cooking something, put it in bags, so that's not allowed, because then you're violating the health. So my suggestion would be is, if you're planning to have food, you have to contact the health officer, and he would explain to you what can be brought, because then if you do bring food, then it'd be my right to stop you from doing it, right? And then sending you home. So, and I don't
One
want to
thing
be
on
put in
that,
that
Nick, can we just
situation.
have the health department come up with a standard sheet that we send to every
Well,
group?
They-
Instead of
people that
them
have-
calling?
People that have food have to get a permit.
If,
Mr. Beagle agreed to waive the fee.
if it's outside food for anything, so some brings water, some brings
No,
whatever.
What is
Right,
different?
well, let's say desserts.
Right, I got you.
Okay, something like that,
You
but
can't.
anything
Like
food.
candy?
You know, can, you know, it's packed, but anything
that's
food
different.
related has to come from a licensed vendor, and you do need a permit.
So if we can just get that sheet from the health department, instead of all these organizations having to call there, and when they apply for the permit, here's your rules, you've
Well,
got a 2-hour window,
With the
it's
application.
on this date.
There's no permit.
What the health department is gonna tell you, they're gonna say, only food in prepackaged,
Right.
right?
Okay.
So then,
That's what
but
that leads
I,
to.
what I'm saying is if, are most folks gonna comply with that, or they're gonna try to short circuit the system,
If-
bring it in a different envelope?
if
To me,
that-
it's like, it's very simple. Cookies or whatever, these things you see at the bagel store, they're
Desserts.
already packaged, right?
Yeah.
You could bring that, but you can't cook it at home, put it in a Ziploc bag and call it it's packaged food, okay? These are the things I'm.
Last year-
Otherwise, we have to have an inspector from the health officer attend your event, inspect your food, and determine whether you could do it or not.
Yeah, we don't want.
Mayor, through you,
Yes.
last year, there was people serving soup that they brought pots from their house.
No, well, it's not allowed.
Now
So,
we know
again,
that, it's
that
right.
we-
Okay.
We can't have
That'll
that.
have,
Can't
maybe
have
we would have to put something with the application.
Somebody wanted to bring a truck, same thing. If you're gonna bring a food truck, you have to have the health inspector come out and inspect.
Well, it's a flag raising,
The
not a
flag
festival.
raising.
I get that.
But they're starting to morph into more than just a flag raising. If you're allowing a 2-hour limit, you're hanging around to have some food, to have some, dance, whatever.
That was
the-
gonna be my next question. Why does it have to be 2 hours? If it's a flag raising and it's not a picnic, it's not food, why isn't it an hour? Why isn't an hour
That's why I made
sufficient?
it an hour and 15 minutes.
And I will explain why, because every culture celebrates differently. I can speak for the Latino community that when we celebrate our celebrations, we talk, there's a lot of speakers, we talk about our history. Okay, some cultures expand on it more than others, we bring our dancers and share that with you, so that's why we need that time. When we understand it's not a festival, and a festival is not 2 hours, obviously a festival is 5-6 hours. So I think that these boundaries or guidelines that we're putting together, I think it's fair, but that's to answer your question, not everyone, some flag raisings are 1, 2, 3, and some, that's the way we feel that we celebrate it and to really honor our culture.
Can we suggest that, because everyone's subject to time, that the initial time of the flag raising, you raise the flag the first 10 or 15 minutes, because if people have obligations, you're not gonna raise it for an hour. Some people have to be someplace, out of respect for everyone's time, which is what we're trying to do here.
I mean,
Is you come, we do the national anthem, always America first, the national anthem of the country, raise the flag so the dignitaries can, whatever they have to do there, and if they have to leave, they don't have to wait for an hour and a half. I think that's reasonable.
I mean, I'm definitely sure that's a recommendation you can make to the committee, to them and.
But I would think that'd
and
be
ask them.
reasonable, though.
But I think that more, in my opinion, that more forced into a recommendation, because now we're dictating how we want their
No,
flag
but I'm saying
raising.
we
But I think that's
recommend- yeah.
reasonable. I mean, I don't see why someone wouldn't consider and be fine with that. I mean, again, we want everyone to be there and
These are
celebrate.
all recommendations,
Right.
and hopefully people respect each other, because that's what we're looking for.
Mayor, through you, I have one other
So,
question.
go ahead.
Mayor, through you to the city manager. Do these flag raisings generate overtime for the city?
It depends.
Can you give us a rough idea of how much it cost last year for these flag raisins with overtime?
That'll be-
Whether it's,
it'd be an extensive calculation
No.
to figure out. I can tell you where sometimes we run into overtime is sometimes I have to call the DPW, whatever, the power's not working, so they would have to come in on an overtime. Many times, we have to call, depending on the organization, we might have to have police presence So either I have to pull them off the road or I have to put somebody out there to make sure that that there's no interference from the outside.
For safety, for safety,
Safety, yeah.
for everyone.
I think we would also like to recommend that these are cultural events, festivals. They shouldn't be brought, no politics should be involved. No one should be, and this happened, no one should come up and bash another country or something else. No, it should be it's a recommendation. Don't bring politics up, because we've had problems before and we had to have security for these things. And, that would be on the recommendations, please keep it,
Yeah, I mean, of course.
Mayor, through you. You actually brought up two very important parts. I think it's a good idea that maybe we should raise the flag in the beginning, after our normal thing, only because, I'm not gonna speak for my other colleagues, but I do know that we have other obligations. People will have us say, okay,
Right.
they ask us to respond to certain events that they have also. So I don't wanna shortchange anybody by saying I'm not gonna come, because I definitely wanna come, but at the same time, I have an obligation going someplace else, so that this way I can at least adjust my
I
time.
think,
And we raise the flag, and I feel good that I've been there, I've done what I've had to do, and I can speak to whoever I have to speak to, and then I have to say, I apologize, but I have to go to someplace else for another event. So that this way, I don't miss your event, and then I don't miss their event. So if we could raise the flag earlier, then we could, that would be.
Madam Clerk,
And then also, it's true about sometimes having the police presence with,
can we put recommendations?
Well,
Can we make suggestions on the application, like we recommend that we raise the flag first thing, stuff like this?
First of all, there's no application.
Right,
What I
there's no
normally did was I would send a letter out in January to all the organizations and nations that want to, and then they would write back to me through email, giving me the day and time they would like to have it.
Okay.
So what I would like to do.
Which we still have to approve.
Yeah. Because you get this sheet from me,
Right, we still have
With
to
all
approve each
the
one as they come in.
flag raisings on. So what I'd like to do, if it's okay with council, is tomorrow I'll type something up with all the recommendations that you are saying. I'll send it out to council. You can write me back, let me know what you think, if anything changed.
one more thing.
Just don't
Mr. Mayor.
answer, reply to all,
Gibson.
please.
Yes. I think it's a really positive thing that you mentioned about, talking about the positive part of how they came to America and how things, about the no negativity, it's all positive things about how they came to the country, how their anniversary and things come to our city.
And we learn, we get
And
educated
we've
by the
seen it
cultures,
before, yeah.
so, which is always good to know. So,
Okay.
there's a motion on the floor, so.
Okay, the motion is for 2-hour event from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., any day of the week, packaged foods only. I have a motion and a second.
Who's second?
And, I'm sorry,
Do I have a
but
second?
Seconded by Councilman Latona.
but the councilman also said that you would allow them over the weekends during the summer, is that correct? No restrictions.
That's why I
why it
said
says
any
any
day.
day.
I said any day. Okay,
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson.
Luckily, you're gonna go for it.
What was that, yes?
Yes.
Councilman Cloche?
I'm gonna state right now that the weekends, unlike Councilwoman Pino, I'm not giving up my family time for my boys. So I will not be at many flag raisings that are held on the weekend. But that being said, allowing the groups to decide how they want to celebrate their culture, I think is important, so I vote yes.
Councilman Latona?
Sending this list out, I was gonna make a motion before, sending this recommendation list out, that it may work for many of these organizations. I'm voting yes, but I would also like to vote yes with the understanding that, okay, I'm voting yes.
You can't amend it. You can't amend a motion.
Councilwoman
It's
Murphy.
in roll call.
Before I vote, I just want to say to all of you in the room, I know pretty much everybody in this room. I have been supportive of many of you in the room, and I do not want to spend every weekend like I did for the last couple of years at flag raisings on the weekend. I have 5 grandchildren who I want to be with on the weekend, so don't expect me to be there if I have a better opportunity with my grandchildren, but I will vote yes.
Councilwoman Pino?
I can only be there because I drag them to the flag raising and we make it a family event, so. But yes, of course, thank you.
Councilwoman Sanchakula?
Yes.
Mayor Grabowski?
Okay, I'd just like to echo Councilwoman Murphy's. We do have families and we have to spend time, and we're hoping that we will try to make as many as we can. We wouldn't want any culture to be offended if we can, if we have family obligations. And I remember the mayor always saying, your family comes first. So if you have family obligations, then we can't expect anyone to be offended if we can't come, because this is about the culture that's raising the flag. And we will try to attend, and, you know, I never miss a flag raising, but there's gonna be times, because it is difficult when you have 17 flag raisings, and 7 or 8 of them are every weekend in August. In July. So I'm gonna vote yes, but so no one gets offended if some of us cannot show up.
Motion carried.
Discussion item 2.
Mayor, through you, before we start discussing this, since this is related to confidential, I believe it's 5, and that leads me to a second. I know there's been some discussion from the press about not going into executive session to discuss confidential 5, which deals with the zoning board, the legal opinion. So I think this discussion should take place after, and I'd like to hear from legal why you believe we should go into executive session for confidential 5. Thank you. Is that okay with you?
Is there any objection to holding this discussion item till after, because it is relevant? Because
It's
we have-
relevant, but I don't think it's related. They fill in a vacancy that
Oh, this-
exists. There may, after closed session, there may be additional
Okay,
vacancies.
so.
But right now, we're filling a vacancy,
So we're talking about the one vacancy.
one vacancy.
Well,
On the
can't,
interviews that we
can't
have.
we hold it because,
Well,
I don't wanna
Councilman
discuss
Forte
it.
said it's, we're
right,
filling
but I
one
believe there
vacancy,
might
which.
be more after
No,
the
no,
other,
we've already
so.
interviewed for that.
So
We've
can't we
interviewed.
just hold it to then do it all at once? I would rather do it that way. If-
I don't see any reason to hold it unless
I
someone
would rather
doesn't.
do it all at once also.
Excuse me?
I would rather do it all at once.
Okay, we'll poll the council who wants to vote on the one thing now. Anyone?
Matter at this point.
Sure, I'll make a motion to appoint, I believe it's Maureen, is it Maureen O'Connor? I can't remember the last name, Maureen O'Connor. I'll make a motion to appoint Maureen O'Connor to the second alternate on the zoning board.
Second.
Okay, we'll have a roll call.
Councilman Gibson?
No.
Councilman Kalojay?
Yes.
Councilman Latona?
I'm voting no, I'm gonna try to wait to do these all together later.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino?
No.
Councilwoman Sanchakula?
I would have preferred to do it all at once, but this is a qualified candidate, and I believe, as the public will be aware, there will be other things that we will be doing tonight. So by no means is this a reflection on any of the other candidates, but this is a very qualified person, and I vote yes.
Mayor Grabowski?
Yes.
It's 4 yes, 3 no, motion carried.
Okay, discussion item, we have one more on late items, televising special meetings. So,
Mayor, through you, may I start?
you want to start, sure.
We did talk about this, and I think there was some confusion. We did discuss this, and actually, Bill, if you remember, when I rudely interrupted you when it was your council privilege, and that about when we not having our budget meetings on a Saturday, I did say that I believe the council should televise them, and there was no one that objected to it. We had our first budget meeting, and it wasn't televised. We did discuss it at the budget meeting, and I firmly believe that since budgeting is one of our most important jobs in this council, that the meetings should be televised. We also discussed at the budget meeting that special zoning and planning board meetings should also be televised. But since they're special meetings where the applicant would pay for the special meeting, that they would pay for any cost of televising that meeting. So again, this is,
May I plan through you, Mayor? That's news to me that you want the applicants to pay for it. I'm not sure that's permitted. I'd have to defer to Mr. Ferraro and the board attorneys on this, but I'm not sure you could require the applicant to pay to televise a special meeting.
And my suggestion to you, Mayor, would be to, why don't we focus in on the council and the special meetings of council rather than the boards? Because the boards can make that decision themselves, and I guess it's a question of whether when they have called special meetings in the past, typically the applicant has to pay for all of the consultants, the city's consultants, and I don't know whether the televising is part of that.
well,
But regardless, I don't think you have to impose, they have the right to hold a special meeting, and they should have the right to, whether they want to televise or not, rather than you imposing that on them.
well, but I disagree with that in one respect, because I'm a little bit confused with the way this whole thing with this cable works. The cable committee has jurisdiction to put programs up that this council never, ever even has come in front of. But yet, we have to sit here and we have to decide and vote if special meetings of this governing body, including the most important part, what I believe is our budget process, should be televised. It's a double standard. You can't have it one way for certain programs, whether it's a food program or a tribute or whatever it is.
I don't think
We
we're
don't vote.
disagreeing. I think we're saying we want to televise the special meetings. I think it can be done under the rules of order, because under the rules of order, you basically say this is when we operate and these are the hours of the meeting. And I would just put a language in there that all special budget meetings are to be televised.
Well, I
So,
would think
and it's
that
that simple.
Okay,
So
but
that
I
way you
also.
give me the
Wait, but
authority
before you
to
make a
enforce it.
motion, because I would disagree with you that also, I don't believe the zoning board or the planning board has the right to decide if that meeting should be televised or not.
That was not.
Well, that's what Mr. Valano was saying.
That's a different issue. They are autonomous boards, so I would.
Right, but they don't have the right to decide if a meeting is televised or not televised. Because how are their meetings televised
But
now?
they call in a special meeting, why wouldn't they have that right?
Well, you know what, let's.
Right.
Let's.
I mean, you
I'd
leave
like-
it up to the individual board to call the
Right.
meeting.
I would
So
like to do a special,
Yeah, let's do
I
the
would like
budget.
to do a motion to televise all special meetings of this governing body, all special meetings of the zoning board and the planning board. And after that, if the cable committee, the cable people have time to do other programs, fine, do it. But those are the most important, so that's my motion.
Question legal? Can't, because they are autonomous bodies, can we,
That's what I'd like to look
Can we
into.
check into that?
I was not aware this was.
because I'm not too sure.
Well, with the autonomous body
If it's that
program
sort-
was if we can make them pay for it.
Right, that
The
part
point
we're
is,
not.
we have a cable committee.
I understand.
There's two issues.
We have-
There's two
okay.
issues. One is, I'm pretty sure I'm right on this one, that you can't force an applicant to
Okay.
televise.
We,
We'll
that's
take
not
that
part
off
of
the
my
table.
The
motion.
second part, I would need to research. I don't know whether we can compel an autonomous board to, without their input at least, to televise a special meeting. So I'd suggest we discuss that at the next.
Well, how do we televise it now? I don't remember ever seeing anything that
We
the
don't-
zoning
we don't
board or the
televise
planning.
special meetings.
But wait, no, but that's not what I'm saying. The legal is saying we can't make an autonomous body.
No.
Televise
We
a
need
meeting.
to research it. He's not saying that.
I need to research it. This was brought up on the
But
fly at
what-
tonight's
right,
meeting.
but
It
what I'm
required some
saying to
research.
you is the regular meetings of the zoning board and the planning board are now televised. There has never been a document where that they have agreed to televise this. So I can't imagine how if they don't,
How do we know that? How do we know they weren't consulted when we first started televising the meetings?
I doubt it. I doubt it.
Can we focus
can we
on
just-
this?
Can
You
we
want
just
the
motion
next,
the budget meetings
you want the next
televised?
budget meeting televised? Why
All
don't you
special meetings should
just
be
give me the
televised.
All the
language?
special meetings of
Mr.
council.
Fano, with all due respect, we get, the mayor, Ms. Fano, We get franchise fees from Verizon and Cablevision, correct? That's to provide public
Councilman, you're
access.
going off on.
I'm not going off.
What you're saying is the royalties that we get from the cable companies, you want to use to pay for, that's not
Those
pertinent
royalties
here.
are to provide public access to the
The question,
community.
the question is,
So
it's
we're
not
gonna
a
have budget
matter,
meetings.
it's not a matter whether, how you're gonna pay for it. It's a matter of, if you wanna give me the policy so I can implement it, all you have to do is put a simple statement in your rules of order that say, all our meetings are televised, including special budget meeting, and that's it.
Ms. Vaughn,
It sells up, then we can talk about, because
Then
Pam
I will
wants to
make that
do more
motion.
research.
I will make that motion that
Point of
all
order.
special meetings of the council, including budget meetings and any other special meetings, are televised.
Okay, do I have a
I'll
second?
second that motion.
Okay. Roll-
And we'll leave open that discussion when you get back to us.
Do I need a roll call on this? Okay, no objections.
Thank you.
Okay, and,
Mayor?
yes.
Before we go any further, I'm sorry to mess you up here,
No, no, go
but
ahead.
quite frankly, I want to change my vote with reference to the person for zoning, for Ms. O'Connor also in the
Okay.
affirmative.
All right, so noted.
Actually, you can't change your vote because the clerk read out what the vote was. Once the clerk reads out, all votes are final. If you wanted to change it, you needed to change it before the clerk
Right,
said.
because he,
What you need to say, I'm sorry, I was talking.
He said he wanted to change his
Wants
vote.
to change his vote.
and why are you saying he can't change it, Joe?
Because once the clerk announces what the vote tally was, the matter is closed.
Unless he was on the prevailing side, correct?
Well, then that would be a motion to
Yeah,
reopen. It's
reopen,
not a
right,
motion to
yeah.
change.
Right, which is, okay.
Whatever.
All right. Okay, so let's go to council mail. Any council mail? Anyone, council mail?
Yes, hold on a second.
Switch votes.
Council mail number 2, it just went down a penny for Sid, for Botany, for,
Yeah, then they're gonna ask me for it.
yeah. Is there any reason why it went down? Is it less assessed? I was just surprised about that.
Well, less assessed would make it go up. It would be more assessed to actually see the rate go down.
They're reducing their rates by a penny.
But don't they need more money? I mean, we're always adding to their budget. Last year, we added 35,000, if I remember. So why are they reducing it if they continue to need more money? Is anybody at the meeting that could answer that question, why they reduced it?
I've been advocating for the opposite, is to, if you're having a shortfall,
Right,
you
well,
should
that,
increase your rates.
that's my point.
Yeah.
Every year they have a shortfall and they're reducing the rate, so maybe we should, find out from them why they're reducing it.
We have a meeting tomorrow night, is that correct, Councilwoman?
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
tomorrow night,
Botany. We'll
Botany,
bring that up at tomorrow night's meeting.
Thank you.
Councilman Murphy.
Council mail number 9.
Wait, can we do to number 3? If we stay in order, can we stay in order? Or- Number 3 is a signed ordinance, which I believe, I don't remember who raised this, but it's pretty clear cut that we really can't do anything. Right, I mean, it's,
That's really the topic of the closed session discussion, to point out the pitfalls. If you were to attempt to amend the ordinance, there's a series of case law that addresses where various ordinances were struck down. But yes, that's
it's
why I
just,
put that on, so everyone had it.
okay. And then just number 8, before we go to number 9, this is a list of roads, Passaic County Road Resurfacing
Yeah.
Program.
Yeah, so what,
One missing is Valley Road.
well, actually,
I said the same thing.
folks.
You did?
Hold on, slow down, okay? So every year, PSC&G, the county, the water company, we communicate with each other to see, hey, you know, what roads would you like to see paved in your town? Now, clearly, Valley is not gonna be included on there because that's gonna be paved by PSC&G, right? This is roads that the county is gonna put under their capital program to pave with county money. So we suggested, Believe Main Avenue is the one that would need the most attention. The other roads are being handled through either a PSC&G or a water company swap of paving.
All the other county roads in Clifton?
Which one did you say?
I believe it's Main Avenue being.
Main Avenue from the Garden State overpass to Hadley Road.
One of the questions
Hadley Ave.
I have, Mr. Valano, is you said about communication with everyone. Has the county and the city, for these roads that are gonna get repaved, communicated with all the utilities that if they need to do any work, that this is the time to do it and not close down the road, repave the road for weeks or months later to do it all over again? So I just wanna know, so we can fix our mistakes from the past, are we trying to get utilities and everyone on the same page to do whatever work they need to do before these roads are repaved?
So they're not mistakes on the past. What's happened is this, or what happened, what caused all this chaos, right? So we did a pretty extensive road paving program. 5, 6, 7 years ago, whenever it was. As soon as we finished paving the roads, PSCNG got authorization from the Board of Public Utilities that they were to start replacing all these aged gas mains. So literally, as soon as I put the pavement down, I get the call from the representative saying, this is what we're planning to do. My response wasn't quite, I said, you realize that we paved all these roads and they're not even dry yet and you already want. So then what we did is we started working a sort of a deal with PSCNG. Initially, any roads that were under a moratorium, you can't touch those roads. And if you do, then you're paving the whole thing. So once we got past that, then it became more of a negotiation. Their claim is that we're only going to pave half the road because we're only disturbing half the road. Our argument was, well, what good is that going to do when we have a brand-new road and then we're going to half the road is paved and it's going to look like, and all we're going to get is complaints. So what we did is we did sort of a swap with PSCNG. You do these roads curb to curb, and then the remainder, we'll do them under our road program, curb to curb. So at the end of the day, we're trying to pave the entire road, not halfway.
And just
That's
one thing.
all, that's being, and it's
Right.
continuing
So
forward.
that fix on that part, the only problem with that is even if they're paying for it, it's still the inconvenience for the business owners and the residents that live in that area that for months and months, trying to get to school, trying to get to
So
work,
that's a coordination that has
so.
to be done better, and I've interjected when that was happening, when you had a detour going into another detour.
That was my next
So
question.
I called the
Yeah.
county, I called all the contractors, we did a group meeting, and we said, what are you guys doing? And even the county saying, what are you guys doing? So what has to happen is police has to coordinate the detours a little bit better. So going forward, keep in mind that we've also had an exceeding number of roads that we did this past year. 95 roads under the city's road programs, and I can't count how many we did on the PSCNG and on the Passaic Valley Water. The point is that we have to do a better job in coordinating.
So there's eyes on
Yeah.
it, for not to have that
Most of the
happen, Mount
problems
Prospect.
occurred on the county roads.
Right.
So that's why I felt the county should be the lead, and they have to do a better job in coordinating it.
And just lastly, with Mount Prospect being on the list, not to get into sidewalks and sewer, but there's a lot of non-sidewalks again on Mount Prospect.
Yeah.
Can we get
So-
with the county
Well,
on?
yes, so
before the
let me
road
give you a
gets
little
paved?
history, and that way you know how we got here.
Okay.
About 20 years ago, the county had a full designed project of Mount Prospect. I don't know what happened, but the city decided not to do that. They basically told the county, we're not doing it. You lost your opportunity. A few years back, with all the water that's running down these driveways and things, we contacted the county again. In fact, as recent as last week, the city engineer contacted the county engineer about redoing that again, putting it back on the burner, fund it so we could start the work, hopefully over the next year or so.
And one last question, you brought up the flooding. If I'm not mistaken, there isn't a sewer drain from St. Andrews to literally Allwood Road, if I'm not mistaken, because there's been flooding issues in the past. Both ways. So again, before they repave this, is there anything on the burner
No,
with the
so
county?
it's not just, the design of the project was to do drainage and curb sidewalks, because you have to widen the road in some areas, and so it's I forget how many millions of dollars.
I'm sorry, did you say that is on to be done?
The scope of the work would include drainage, curbs, sidewalks, and paving.
And that's part of this project? to do.
No, it's not. This is a project that it was taken off, now it's being put back by the county, so they have to put the funding in before they can move forward with the project.
But now here's my point, if PSE&G is gonna repave that road now in 2 months,
Right.
it's then gonna get dug back up if they approve the project next year?
Well, my suggestion, now is the time to do it, because if you know, now that it's already torn up, let's, get it done, and that way we pave and we're done and we're finished.
All right. So is that conversation gonna happen?
It's happening.
Thank you.
Council Bill 9, so these 7 things are what the zoning board is looking at, and it's gonna eventually go into the master plan?
There's suggestions to change the ordinances for these 7 things. It was brought up a year ago.
More than a year ago.
One that it really should have been passed, they've been looked at. It's suggested by the zoning officers to do this. I think, I'd like to have that put back on. Is that, would be for first reading ordinance?
Yeah, we delineated the status of all of these, so hopefully we can move some of these off the dime. Some of
Right.
these are for the board, some of these are for the planners, but we need their input on each one to put it back on, so.
Mayor?
Yes.
So, number one with the attic and basement, that needs to come out of, not only in a definition, but it also has to be made into an ordinance.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And the setbacks, well, the
Right.
suggested ones will make them
We
into
need the
ordinance.
planning board to amend their letter on
Okay.
that one. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we can move ahead with it,
So you'll move ahead on all this?
as soon as we hear from the planning board.
Okay.
Awesome. We have the houses of worship. I know this is probably gonna have to be tabled because the 2 planners have to get together, but through
We
you
have to
to,
sit with the committee to figure that out.
through you to the city manager, can we get both planners together this month to try to get that thing resolved? Because this has a rippling effect, because not only does it have to do with the houses of worship, but it also has to do with their parking conditions and things that are affecting our neighborhoods. So we need to get on
Move
this.
forward.
We definitely have to have the planners get together and.
Well, we need to get together.
Yeah, we need to get
Yeah,
this
they're-
finished.
they're only
Yeah, right
gonna
now,
be-
as soon as possible.
With reference to the sodium vapor,
It's already in place.
Yeah, that's,
We've already starting to use LEDs, 27 to 3,000,
fence height,
fence heights. We discussed this fence height, so, again, I think I brought it to you several times. Every year you get an annual report from the zoning board. In the annual report, it tells you the number of things they need, but every year, we never do anything about it. So we keep talking about it, we never, so I think the fence height should be changed. That's one of the changes in the ordinance that we need,
Yes.
because what ends up happening is, in essence, you're approving a 6-foot fence, but technically you call it a 5-foot solid with a 1-foot opening on the top. It's still a 6-foot fence. So why don't you just make it a 6-foot, and let's not play this game and eliminate
right,
the
yeah,
number of.
6 foot. That's a
So can we
suggestion.
have that on the agenda for next
We
council
could
meeting
add
for,
that. We
for
can make it all part of
ordinance
this.
reading?
We can make it all part
Well,
of.
can we start doing
Yeah,
it?
well, we
yeah,
will.
we gotta get this.
You'll start
Right, chipping away.
coordinating and getting them done as we
And
can.
then, excuse me, Dave, then you just need a letter from the planning board to approve these changes?
Well,
Not exactly.
some of them, the planners were going to give us a draft or a recommendation of what specifically they want. So each one you'll see what.
All right, so we can get that on for ordinance.
Whenever it comes in, we can get them on, sure.
Okay, but then if we can move on that
Some
quickly.
of them are already drafted, ready to go, so,
This is not gonna be ready for the next meeting,
not
no.
all of these, no. No, some of these are gonna require a lot of discussion.
How about like the
Setbacks, the easy ones, yes.
Yes.
If we can get at
I
least as
think
many
three-
as we can.
There were 3 or 4 that we originally brought to you, but I
Right.
think
Right.
this council stopped it, so
Right, so.
we'll bring them back.
Okay.
And then we'll chip away at the rest as we go.
Okay, perfect. Any other councilman? Nope. I think we're good. Okay, we have, I guess, we have 8 minutes to start
Yeah, we can
confidentials.
start some.
Want to start some? Give it a shot. Councilman 1? I'm sorry. We have to ask everyone to.
Whereas the municipal council deemed it essential in the furtherance of the public interest to discuss in closed session expressly permitted by NJSA 10:12 following subjects to it. 1, political sign ordinance, legal opinion. 2, legal opinion concerning the lifting of sidewalk slabs. 3, workers' compensation claim, MS building department. 4, license agreement negotiations, Woodrow Wilson Middle School. 5, legal opinion regarding mandatory training and attendance for members of the zoning board of adjustment and potential litigation questions. Now therefore be it resolved, the public should be excused from that portion of the council's meeting to be held on February 7th, 2023, at which time said subject should be discussed. Be it further resolved, discussion held in such closed session can be disclosed to the public on or about the time the matter is concluded. Do I have a motion to go into executive?
So the council's aware, I responded via email to the inquiries on the closed session.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings of the Municipal Council for the year 2023, which was published as a legal advertisement in the Herald News and the Record on December 12, 2022. Further notice of this meeting was given on Friday prior to the meeting by posting said notice on the bulletin board at City Hall and on the City of Clifton's website, which notice stated that formal action may or may not be taken on the matters to come before the Municipal Council. Roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson?
Here.
Councilman Kalojay?
Present.
Councilman Latona?
Here.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Here.
Councilwoman Pino?
Here.
Councilwoman Sedgwick?
Here.
Mayor Grabowski?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Today's invocation will be given by Pastor Eric Farrar, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, we are blessed to be here tonight. We thank you for your abundant blessing. We ask that you would aid and guide all participants in this meeting, that they would benefit and their decisions would benefit the citizens of this great city. We also ask that you would allow them to find common ground, and when they can't find common ground, Lord, that you would allow them to have respect for one another. We ask your blessing once again. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have approval of the minutes, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay?
My apologies, what was the motion for?
Approved minutes.
Yes, with the abstaining on the last set that I was not in attendance.
Councilman Latona?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy? Councilwoman Pino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sedgwick?
Yes.
Mayor Grabowski?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Petitions and communications.
Communication by the city manager, meeting minutes of the Historical Commission of December 8th, CATV Committee of December 7th, Board of Adjustment of January 18th, Passaic Valley Water Commission of December 21st, Planning Board of January 26th, Senior Citizen Advisory Meeting of January 26th, Board of Recreation of November 22nd, and the Reorganization Meeting of January 9th, Rent Leveling Board of June 9th, Board of Health of September 13th and October 11th, Hazardous Materials Control Board of September 21st, October 19th, and December 21st, Environmental Commission for September 14th, October 12th, and November 9th. This concludes communications.
In next order of business.
Mayor, I have questions on some of these committee minutes.
Question?
Thank you. For the Clifton Senior Advisory meeting that met on January 26th, if I can ask Councilwoman Satricula or Councilman Latona, if they can explain on the minute says the committee liaisons will go back and speak to their council colleagues to have them come do a meet and greet at the senior center so that everyone knows who they are. Are you guys how are you planning to do this? You guys sending out an email through the city manager's office to schedule?
So I can answer that. It just came up at the meeting that on random meetings when it was appropriate for council members that they were free, they just wanted to have a different council member come, not as much introduce themselves, because obviously myself and Joe are the new members, but just all the members in general in between their meetings when it's appropriate for each council member and they're available for that time on a random location, just to go down there for 5 minutes and speak to them.
Okay, so that's something we'll just do individually. I'll set it up through the city manager. It wasn't something that the committee will reach out to us to do.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Wait, I'd like to clarify that. It was not to go to the senior advisory meeting. It was to tell the council that they're more than welcome to go to the senior citizens any day of the week when the senior have the lunch programs to introduce themselves. So it was nothing formal. That's it. So it was not to the advisory committee. It was just to let the new members of the council know that they can go to the senior center any day they wish to introduce themselves. They're there every day for lunch, and that was it.
Thank you. My next question regarding the Clifton Cable TV Advisory Committee. Ms. Ferrigno, it said I received the minutes for December. It said their next meeting was January 25th. I haven't received those minutes. Could you get those over to me, please?
If you haven't received them, it means I haven't received them.
Is there any way for us to follow up because it's February 7th?
I know what it is, but if the secretary didn't do them yet, they have to get them approved at the following meeting. So if I didn't give them to you, it's because I don't have them yet.
Okay, so let me just get an understanding. So what happens is they take the minutes, and then before they submit to council, they wait a whole meeting
Yeah.
to submit it to get it approved.
Just like we do. The council approves we just approved the January 17th meeting. Now they can go in the minute book. The committees do the same thing. They have a meeting in January, they approve them in February, that's when the secretary forwards them to me, and that's when you get them.
Understood. Well, it's a little different with us because we meet every 2 weeks, so it's 2 months pretty much before we know what happens.
Again, when I get
No,
them, I
it's
give them
fine.
to you.
So now, this is something we'll bring back to the subcommittee because it's 2 months. It's a long time if you think about it to get an update.
It
But
depends.
that's
I
the
know what you're
policy.
saying because one of the secretaries is secretary to a number of committees, and she's extremely busy upstairs, and I guess when she gets to them,
Okay, so
I have
we'll
no answer for that.
Something to follow up on. Thank you. I guess the same question was for this one, the Clifton Historical Advisory Committee. They met on December 8th, and their next meeting was going to be January 5th, and it's been a month. So I guess we'll be on the lookout for that one. And the last one I have was the minutes from the recreation, which I believe, Councilwoman Murphy, you were for this one. On the minutes, it says, publicity and communications were discussed. Could you elaborate on that? What do they mean by, what was discussed in regards to those topics?
What meeting was that from?
That was the recreation meeting.
No, recreation.
On
what
November 28th are these minutes. Do you recall?
I do not recall from November 28th.
Okay, do you recall what this meant? Board will meet to review and complete ordinance updates and changes.
No, I don't recall from November 28th. That was,
No, that's fine. No worries. I'll follow up. I just wanted, you don't recall what ordinance they were updating. Okay.
we get our minutes the day before our next meeting. So if we're meeting in February, we get our minutes the day before.
Okay. I know you had mentioned that you were meeting since the last meeting. Is there anything before, given the way the minutes are being given to council, is there any way that we should know that was discussed in that meeting? I know you mentioned you had a rec meeting.
The meeting we just had 2 weeks ago? There's nothing that I need to discuss with you or the board. It's just regular stuff, which parks are being fixed and that kind of thing.
So there's nothing to share with the council on what the committee discussed?
No, nothing that's pertinent to you or anybody else on the council. It's just regular recreation stuff.
So how are we supposed to know what the recreation committee is discussing?
When we get the minutes.
Point of order.
Okay, no, it's fine. I'm trying to get clarity because obviously I am, trying to help with the communication that we're having here with the council. We all need to know what everyone's doing, right? So, okay.
Well, this is something
and
new
I
that
guess
we've
my-
never done before, so.
Yeah, it's new. Everyone's getting used
I
to
know you're
this.
the head of this new committee, so if that's what we're expected to do, then I guess that's what we'll do.
Okay. And my last question, I guess, since the last meeting, I know, Mr. Villano, Mayor, through you to Mr. Villano, we had agreed that any committees that are going to meet in between, that are not regularly scheduled, that the council will get an email. But this flag committee met, and I didn't know about the meeting if it wasn't because of this. What happened? Where did the ball get dropped?
So as I indicated, Councilwoman, we're setting up a interactive calendar. And so that will be one of the first things that my assistant's going to do is going to start uploading all of those flag raisings. Everything will be posted on that calendar.
Yes, but that wasn't my question, Mr.
Yeah,
Valano.
what
At
was
the
your
last meeting, the direction from this council that we agreed on is that any meetings that are not part of the regularly scheduled meetings,
Which one did we not give you?
the flag committee meeting, that's why we had.
I'm sorry, which committee?
Flag committee?
Okay, I was, that's a little, first of all, I was not made aware of that meeting, mayor and council members, so I really didn't know that when that took place.
Excuse me, Nick, but is this questioning, is this in order? Because we've never had anyone question between petitions and communications, so I don't know, is this appropriate?
I don't know.
What
What I did suggest that,
One of the
actually,
last questions.
rather than having, send an email reminder, I suggested that we create this calendar. We're in the process of doing it. So that way, it could actually send you reminders if you want it. You could set it up to say, hey, you got a flag raising tomorrow. Or there's a new meeting set up for the flag raising committee. This is when it's at. So I will set that up. And I will provide you access to that, as well as the public, because the public will have access as well.
Mr. Valano, and I think that's a great idea, and I can appreciate that, but
I didn't know about this flag-raising committee, and I apologize, I didn't know it took place, so I didn't know to send you a notice.
To my colleagues, if we can please do better, since we all agreed that any committees that are not
I don't know
regularly
that
scheduled.
this is really the time that we,
Well, no, this is about the committees, that's why I'm bringing it up, because
no, but we're not,
this is-
we're
this was a meeting that was held.
under ordinances right now.
No, we were at the communication meeting minutes, and that's what we were discussing. That's why I brought it up at this point.
Okay, all right.
So, to my colleagues, if we can, follow what we have already put in place, any meetings that are not in a regularly scheduled meeting packet, can you please make sure that we all know? So this way, if any of us have questions while you're meeting, we can do it, and it'll.
Councilwoman, I think we agreed that any meetings we have, we will CC
Yeah,
the council members.
yeah, it didn't happen, so I just want to make sure we don't drop
We
the
just
ball.
made that rule the last meeting.
Mayor, if I may,
Councilman,
maybe just to clear this up, because this flag committee came up maybe 5-6 years ago, when we first started doing the flag raisings. Mayor Grabowski and Councilwoman Murphy and I were put on that flag committee. Flag committee. While we were at the flag raisings, we generally would talk about things that we would see that would either benefit or things that we would have to talk about to make things better. So when we didn't have like an official, other than I think one meeting, I think we had one meeting that we actually came here. But when we were at the flag raisings themselves, if there were things that came up, we would discuss them like right at that flag raising, so that this way it was fresh on our mind and things that we would want to bring up to make things better. So there was not an official committee meeting other than the first one that we had. So if that helps.
No, I can understand where it came, but if the recommendation is coming from the committee, then we have to follow the procedure of the committee having the meeting. If it's just a discussion we want to have, but this was a recommendation that was typed up that came from the committee. But I just want, again, moving forward, but that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
all right. Next order of business, ordinances. Please proceed with ordinances.
Second reading ordinance 7793, an ordinance to amend, revise, and supplement Chapter 99 of the Code of the City of Clifton, entitled Salaries and Compensation, more particularly Article 6 thereof, entitled Confidential Officials and Employees, Section 99-34, entitled Minimum Maximum Salaries Fixed, amends compensation for 2023, Section 99-37, entitled Hospitalization and Insurance, amends health insurance plans for retirees, and Section 99-42, entitled Holidays, adds Juneteenth.
Okay, public hearing will be heard on this. Does anyone wish to be heard? State your name and address, please.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Bart Servo. I live at 306 Delaware Avenue. I've been a resident of Clifton for 60-plus years. I've seen this town go right down the tubes. I just watched this council waste 45 minutes of time talking about a flag raising, which I don't think my tax dollars have to go to for police overtime or DPW cleanup. They should have
Excuse me, this is only, you can only speak on the second reading of this ordinance. If you want to speak on that, you have to come back in the public
Oh, I
portion.
thought I could talk.
No, this is only for the second reading of this ordinance that's on there. You could, when this is finished, you could come back up. Okay?
Okay, anyway.
Does anyone else
We
wish to
need a
be heard on
motion.
this ordinance? I need a motion.
Can we move this, can we go to discussion on this? Because I have a question on this resolution. Can I speak?
No, we're in the middle of a hearing for an ordinance right now.
Right.
We can have discussion on the ordinance before we vote on it.
Yeah, discussion on the ordinance.
Yeah.
So can we split this ordinance, because when this conversation came up to add Juneteenth as a holiday for the confidentials, it was my understanding that it was to put all employees on the same playing field. It's a holiday, and it's my understanding, police, fire, DPW, this isn't a paid holiday for them.
Counsel?
Yeah, so the collective bargaining agreements kind of are negotiated as they expire. So within the next, probably the next council meeting, the same amendment will be on the DPW. It's already taken place for the IBEW City Hall members. So one by one, before Juneteenth, you'll have every group's contract that it would affect. That, in other words, City Hall's going to be closed that day. So you'd have to have each collective bargaining agreement amended to reflect the Juneteenth holiday.
And that's going to include then police, fire, and IBEW?
They have floating holidays in their contract, so it's a little bit different.
Okay, so again, it was my understanding when this came to us, adding Juneteenth for confidentials was to make an equal playing field, so all employees were treated equally in the same.
That's not the
case then.
That would be negotiated in the police and fire contracts, but for the purposes of closing City Hall, you would have to have this ordinance amended to include the confidentials in the group, because you've already basically closed City Hall for that date by amending the IBEW ordinance to close it for Juneteenth.
So is DPW then is not going to be working or picking up recycling or?
Your yes, it's going to be a holiday for the city. So the DPW contract hasn't been finalized yet. We're waiting to hear back from them, hopefully by the next council meeting. And you'll see Juneteenth as an approved holiday that this council approved. When I say this council, the prior year's council approved to make Juneteenth, which is a state holiday, also a city holiday.
And then just lastly, it will be fixed in police and fire?
As those contracts come up, yes.
It'll be added as a holiday equally?
That's up to this council how they handle that, but yes. In other words, those employees work when City Hall is open, so it's different.
Do we have a second?
We need a motion.
Motion?
Make the motion.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson.
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay.
The motion is for,
To approve this salary ordinance.
do we have a motion to close the hearing?
Okay, I'll entertain
Yes,
them.
I'm yes for the ordinance.
I'm so confused. Councilman Latona.
I'm going to be yes with the understanding that it gets fixed and addressed as a paid holiday for all employees equally.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino. Councilman Sedgwick. Mayor Grabowski.
Yes.
First reading ordinance, 7794. An ordinance to amend, revise, and supplement Chapter 439 of the Code of the City of Clifton, entitled Vehicles and Traffic, more particularly Section 439-13 thereof, entitled Parking Prohibited at All Times on Certain Streets. Delete and add portion of Underwood Place.
Move to introduce.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson? Yes. Councilman Kalojay?
Yes.
Councilman Latona?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino? Yes. Councilman Sedgwick?
Yes.
Mayor Grabowski?
Yes.
Motion carried. 7795. An ordinance to amend, revise, and supplement Chapter 6 of the Code of the City of Clifton entitled Advisory Beautification Committee to delete the requirement that one member must be selected from the gardening club.
Move to introduce.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson.
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay.
Yes.
Councilman Tona.
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino. Yes. Councilwoman Sedgwick.
Yes.
Mayor Krupowski.
Yes.
Motion carried. 7796, an ordinance to amend, revise, and supplement Chapter 99 of the Code of the City of Clifton entitled Salaries and Compensation, more particularly Article 2 thereof, entitled Non-Uniform Officials and Employees, Section 99-2, entitled Minimum Maximum Salaries Fixed, creates title of and compensation for accounting clerk, assistant zoning officer, building subcode official, and recreation program specialist.
Move it on first.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson.
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay.
Yes.
Councilman Tona.
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino. Councilwoman Sedgwick. Mayor Grabowski.
Yes.
Motion carried. This concludes ordinances.
Okay, these ordinances will be published in accordance with the law. Mr. Valano, do you have anything today?
Mayor, just an update. Last week we met on the budget. I thought the meeting was very successful, and I thank you for your input. What I have done since then, in fact, as recent as tonight, I finished checking all the salaries to make sure they're all updated, plugged all those numbers in, and also made some cuts, reduction, and add-ons depending on, whether the salary exceeded, what was originally in the budget. So at the end of the day, basically what I've done is I'm ready to present a balanced budget, zero budget. There are some tax increases, but we will have to talk, at the 27th. We changed the date to Monday the 27th. That meeting will be televised, so Mike, as you're listening, put yourself down for the 27th of February to televise that meeting. So at this point, I will present all my recommendations, the changes to the CFO, and then in turn, we'll be ready to discuss it on the 27th with you. But at this point, I feel comfortable that we have a balanced budget.
Thank you, Mr. Valano. Okay, at this time, we'll have a hearing to the public, and I'd just like to say, please use the microphone and state your name, address that for the record. Speaking is permitted for 5 minutes only. Please refrain from emotional responses either in favor or against the speaker. In order to maintain quorum, I request that no derogatory statements be made against any person. Members of the council are asked to refrain from responding to the public at this time. You may respond during your privilege of the floor following this portion of the meeting. Anyone wish to be heard?
Ready now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Do I sign this? All right. My name is Bart Servo. I live at 306 Delawan Ave. I've been a resident of Clifton for 60-plus years. We already heard the thing about the flag, and we'll get back to that. But I have a few other issues. I have a few issues with animal control. I have a few issues with the city in general. We have foxes. Unfortunately, they're taking the mountain down and they're building, and unfortunately, these animals are moving in. I live by Costco's, and there's a strip of woods there, okay? And I call the animal control, I've called the city, and I've been told that we can't trap foxes. It's illegal. These foxes are rabid. You don't see a fox walking up Delawana Ave at 12 o'clock in the afternoon if it's healthy. These foxes are rabid, and they're going to bite somebody, they're going to attack a kid, and they're going to attack a dog or something. And I just want to bring it to the city's attention, because I'm going to hold somebody responsible if my dog or my kid gets bit, my grandchild. Because it's ridiculous, the answers I get. Another thing, I live on Delawana Ave. Delawana Speedway, let's call it. It's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. People fly up that road 60, 70 miles an hour. I've been here numerous times talking to the cops about it. All right, they set up a speed trap in front of my house for 2 hours. Never seen them again. The buses, the cars, it's like a drag strip. When they come up over the hill, under the trestle, I don't have to tell you, you know the way it is. It's like a drag strip there. Even the buses, they are not doing 30 miles an hour when they're coming down Delawana Ave past my house. Next issue. I can't believe you guys are raking out ball fields in the wintertime. That's a waste of money. I heard that there's $100,000 allotted for a dog park. When is this? I don't know when it's gonna happen, but I would like to see it happen soon. Because there's a lot of dogs in Delawana, and there's a lot of people in Delawana that don't clean up after their dogs. There's no cleanup signs, there's no curb your dog signs, and there's only 2 garbage cans in Dunny Park to throw your dog's waste in. I've seen people come from other towns and walk their dogs and let them do their business in my park. I grew up in this park. This is my park. Let them do their business and then get in their car and leave. I call the police, 45-minute response. Somebody's walking their dog off the leash, I call the police, 45, 50-minute response. These people are gone already. Next issue. I got a couple of them. The garbage cans that I went through, all right, I'm not gonna get into the cops because I don't want them in front of my house tonight. City owns a piece of property off of Delawana Ave where they turn their dump trucks around behind the Memorial Park. As soon as you come off Delawana Ave, it's to the right, they go down and it's a turnaround for them. Next door to that is a house. There's been garbage laying in the back of that house for 2 years. I've been calling about it. 2 years. And I hear that it's construction debris. I never knew a mattress was construction debris. Something's got to be, Delawana is like a dumping ground for Clifton, and it makes me sick. You dump all the snow there, you just clean it up, and then you leave all the garbage. It's like a dumping ground. It's it's just horrible the way Delawana is treated in this town. It's like we're forgotten. I never see no cops around. Never. I could sit on my porch for 3 hours. I don't see one cop drive up Delawana Ave. You know what I was told? Well, there's no trouble over here. They were just cutting off catalytic converters last week. They robbed cars out of the mall like crazy, but there's no trouble in Delawana. That's all I got to say. Thanks. Oh, I got to sign this.
Mr. Mayor, the gentleman did give us an address of that house that he's been reporting.
Oh, I don't have an address. I'll tell you.
That's okay then.
It's the first house on Delawana Ave.
I will call you.
Call me. I'll give you my number.
Yeah, leave us your number and I will get that. We'll figure that out.
This is the first time I've ever been to a meeting, and in 60 years, I'm just very upset with Clifton. I'm disgusted with it. I've been here for 60 years, and I'm disgusted to see the way this town has turned into. And with that flag thing, the only flag we should be honoring is the American flag. They want to have their ethnic groups, that's great. That's all well and good. But there's no reason why my tax dollars have to go to pay for their securities.
Anyone who wish to be heard? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, Trini Mestre, Valley Road, Clifton. I am a native of Ecuador, South America, for those who don't know geography. I only lived 15 years in that country and 60 years in the United States of America. And I am more American than most people who claim to be American because I'm civically involved. I have a degree in political science, and I have been serving this country since I was 15 years old. The issue with the flags, I am the founder of the organization that Commissioner Pino says she belongs to. I founded that organization in 1975 in my property. My husband and I own lots of property in Passaic, Patterson, and some in Clifton, and we pay a lot of taxes, Every American of any ethnicity that hasn't been a third or fourth generation born in this country has the right to do civic engagement. We had no problems on 4th of July. We spent lots of money for festivals and everything. Guess what? Minority people, and I'm going to speak for the Hispanic community, and 1/3 of the entire population of the whole population of the city of Clifton. Guess what? Some of my friends own property that are worth $600,000 and more. You know how much tax you have to pay, property tax? I have a lot of friends that have businesses. They pay taxes. And if they want to celebrate their heritage, they should be allowed, and no one should question it, that their taxes are being used for this or for that. Because 1/3 of the population has a lot of homeowners that pay a lot of taxes. And even if you don't own a business and you don't own a property, of every dollar bill that you spend in the city of Clifton, you pay sales tax, you pay all kinds of tax. So the Latino thing comes on my heart after 60 years living here, being Americanized. When somebody is trying to prevent other people, I don't care if they are Polish, they are Ukrainian, whatever it is that they are, I salute them because there is pride and remembering what your ancestry is and where you come from. I congratulate every member of this city council that had the stamina to stand for something that is right and that the taxpayers of this city pay for. 1 policeman, 2 policemen. I see them in the street, sitting in cars for hours. And I said to one of them, how much you make for hours? $60. Oh, that's nice, thank you. I kept walking. So what are we complaining about for 2 hours? I think it's demeaning and un-American to talk about the ethnicity of other people who want to feel proud about seeing the flag that saw their ancestors being free of slavery. 400 and some years enslaved to Spain. Every country in Latin America has the right to express their patriotism, and that doesn't make them less American. Thank you.
Good evening, Mickey Gaudette, Bergen Avenue, Clifton. I'm gonna say one thing before I get started. Mr. Villano, thank you so very much for putting together the calendar that I asked for almost 2 years ago. I am so happy that we are going to have a cohesive and universal flag raising calendar, so thank you. So as I said, Mickey Gaudette, New Jersey Public Charter School Association Parent Liaison, Passaic Arts and Science Charter School, Clifton Middle PTO President. And what I'm here to talk about today is something that I want to bring everyone's attention to, and I'm going to talk about it every 2 weeks until we do something. There was an incident that occurred in Yonkers on January 31st, and you may have seen it on the news last night. 2 teenage boys were struck by a school bus in the crosswalk in front of their school. I'm going to repeat that. 2 teenage boys were struck by a school bus in a crosswalk in front of their school. The school cameras picked it up. Bus driver didn't stop, didn't know he hit the 2 teenage 16-year-old boys. And by the way, I don't know if anybody has any 16-year-old boys, but they're not short. I bring this up even though it occurred in Yonkers and not in Clifton, because it does show that there is an underlying concern. I'm going to repeat that word too. All children deserve to be safe going to, from, and during their school day. Which then leads me to a Clifton issue. 43 Clifton Avenue, which is a public school, for those who want to argue, is still in need of a crossing guard since August. I have a potential solution because I'm not going to stand up here and complain without bringing you a potential solution. Because our school hours differ from the traditional district, we need a crossing guard Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. and then from 2:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. Having a crossing guard split 2 schools, meaning ours and another post, would not interfere with any children being crossed safely. So, now that I've told you all of that, I'm going to end on a positive note. Our students at our school have written cards of congratulations. I have a bag for everyone. And they've written them to all of the elected officials from the November elections. That's the city council, the Clifton, the Patterson, and the Garfield Board of Educations. Each classroom adopted an official, so you've all been adopted by a classroom, and I do have our principal here who can verify that. But as such, each classroom is officially, and we will send a letter to Mr. Villano, inviting their elected official to come and meet them during Read Across America Week, which is March 2nd through March 6th. The students would enjoy meeting you all. I'm sure after you read their cards, you would enjoy meeting them as well. We do look forward to seeing you all, and thank you so very much. Nancy, can I give this to you?
Alessia Ramo, 35 Merrill. I was one of the candidates for the zoning board position. I'm still processing what I just saw in the vote for the zoning board appointee. I was the most qualified candidate. I was recruited by Fairleigh Dickinson to teach a class to be a professor of planning. 3 sitting members of the council and members of the zoning board encouraged me to apply for the position. I was the only applicant in this list who has ever attended a Clifton zoning board meeting. I was the only applicant who ever attended a Clifton zoning board meeting. I was the only applicant who ever attended a zoning board meeting. What were you thinking? What are you trying to do to this town?
Avram Eisman, 706 Passaic Ave. So this is a nice little packet they give members of the public. It's about 3 pages, double-sided, about the council agenda. Yet, you might as well write it in any other language than English, because most of us have no idea what half these stuff mean, especially in the work session when you guys move very quickly, which I understand. But if there's a way we can get this a little lengthier so we actually understand what's going on, it would be very helpful to the public. Just one example is on council mail number 9 is zoning matters. So if there's a suggestion to change zoning laws, that really affects me as a homeowner, affects most people in this room as homeowners. We'd want to know what's being changed to our zoning laws, what the proposals are. So, hey, if it comes up at a meeting next time, I can come in and say, I do like it, I don't like it. That's why we have public hearings. But the way this is printed and given to the members of the public, we have no idea what it means. Same thing with the flag raising. I didn't know anything about it until I sit down and Councilwoman Pino opens her mouth and says, hey, this is not right, which she's correct about. But none of us have seen it, know what it is, and have no way of even commenting on it based on what we're given. So if in the future we can give a more detailed explanation of what some of these things are, so members of the public can actually understand it and actually comment on it in a proper manner, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
Hello, Jacqueline Mestry, Valley Road, Clifton, New Jersey. I did want to commend the council for voting yes and unanimously, as they did, regarding the flag raising, including no restrictions on days to include weekends. As a community advocate and an organizer since my youth, I can tell you that it is more important for communities represented within this city and any city have their city government take into consideration what is more convenient for them and not for those who sit on the council. We are all here to respect and appreciate each other, and it should be simple enough to know that a community would understand if not every single council member could make a flag raising or any other event, because it is not about the council members. This is about the communities that represented in this city. So again, I commend you for saying yes. And I had more to say, but I couldn't say it any better than my mother just did. And that is why from the first time I stood here at this podium, I stated how proud I was to be her daughter. Please take into consideration whenever you make and put anything on an agenda that goes to a vote, that it is discussed in those communities impacted, that are affected and impacted, be consulted. And I was going to mention something that the gentleman said when he spoke here about he didn't feel that and I'm not here to fight with anyone. I want us all to get along. Discussion is a part of that. But this mentality about not wanting my tax dollars to go to, like as if we're other, or if people from immigrant communities are other or not, as if they don't pay taxes as well, as my mother just stated. If you live here, you work here, you spend money here, you pay taxes. So again, there's other festivals and things that tax dollars go to that other community groups' tax dollars contribute to as well. But it's not about mine is more important than yours. If we are to be, as we proudly say, Clifton is, the number one most diverse community in this state, then walk that talk. Okay? That's what I wanted to say about that. So thank you very much, as I said, and I commend you all for voting the way that you did.
Anyone else?
I make a motion to close public session.
Hearing no objections. Just one thing really quick on Mr. Villano. You have the gentleman's phone number, Bart Siervo. If you could give him a call and discuss those other problems that he had would be a lot quicker than him coming to all of us.
Yes, I will go over those issues. I believe he wrote it down. I will get that
Yeah,
before the
this way
night.
it makes it easier. And just one other question, and then we'll go to council. What is the rule on Fox in Clifton?
Well,
Because I get a lot of this.
If it's rabid, it's obviously a different, if it's determined that the animal is rabid, then the animal control could take faster action. But I will discuss that with Mr. Beagle and see about, what we could do, because these animals, the foxes, the coyotes, they've been more visible over these recent years, so they're moving about more.
Right.
So we want to maybe do more of a public outreach and say, if you see this, if you see these signs, stay away from, call the animal control, or it's okay for an animal to you might want to just scare them off or whatever. But I'll go over that with Mr. Beagle and we'll put something out.
Okay, I just for the public.
Mayor, I do have one, I believe Ms. Godet had a question about, she made a statement about the crossing guards.
Right.
And I just want to remind you that what we did is, if you recall, we haven't been funding the entire TO on the crossing guards. I think these past few years, we only funded about 48 or 49. And if you remember, I told you I bumped that number up to 60, which is the full TO. What that allows is some of these other posts that haven't been, not funded, they haven't been attended, to put a crossing guard at these locations. So it gives the police department more people that they could cover more of an area.
Okay, thank you. Mr.
So
Priori.
it's being accounted for in the 23 budget.
Okay, Mr. Priori, did you have a?
Just to follow up on the Fox issue, I
Yeah,
texted
please.
the health officer. He indicated that it is not permissible for the city to trap foxes unless they're acting rabid pursuant to New Jersey Fish and Wildlife regulations. I also Googled it while we were there, and it does not necessarily mean that a fox is rabid because you see them during the day. Although they're generally nocturnal, they've learned to feed during the day. So you shouldn't be alarmed if you see a fox during the day, is the bottom line. But if it is acting rabid, you should contact the health department.
Okay, because we get a lot of requests, from people about that. Okay.
Mayor, through you, before
Yes.
we start council privilege, since I did say during the work session that we would have things to talk about, I would like to make a motion to appoint Alyssa Aramo as first alternate to the zoning board.
Second.
Mayor, point of order.
Point of order.
Excuse me, point of order.
That motion is out of order because we had said that we were going to have a specific session for this on both vacancies, and I think that it'd be more appropriate to do it at that time.
I agree.
It was discussed, we agree. Okay, I'm sorry, we'll have to hold that.
But Mayor, just one other thing, just to address the gentleman that came up about if Mr. Valano can answer about the dog park. A year ago, I know I made the request to put money for that dog park. What is that update on that?
So we have we'll have two dog parks. Presently, there is a dog park on Nash Park, and what we want to do is we want to really make that a true dog park. If you remember, we pretty much slapped it together. We put some fencing, grass, but it's really not per spec a dog park. So part of that money was going to be used to upgrade the Nash Park, and the other location was going to be on William Street in that park. We're going to for Nash, we are also looking. We just made an application to get funding from Open Space, so we hopefully, Green Acres. So hopefully they could help us pay for that, as well as the spray park that the council has desired in the past, upgrades to the different amenities. And then on William Street, we want to create a new dog park where one does not exist presently. And now we're going to discuss under our capital budget because the city would have to put some money, additional
But
money
we already
to
put
do
the
that.
money, Mr. Valano, last year.
Correct. And,
So-
but you're also going to talk about, the Councilwoman Sadricoula has been very vocal about that park, that it needs an upgrade. And if you remember, I've already had a survey done. We already have some conceptual plans. So we want to discuss that.
For
And
the dog
funding-
park?
Yes, a dog park is a component of that park.
Right, but we put, okay, can we have a follow-up for the next meeting on this? Because it's been a year since we put the money aside for the dog park.
I'm meeting with my staff to start talking about capital. I think the appropriate time is going to be over the next couple of weeks when we sit down, and that way, or the bond committee sits down to determine what projects you want to fund and what. Yes, the 100,000 is, but the 100,000 is part of other work being done in both of those parks. So we could either just spend 100,000 and just, do those upgrades, or we could incorporate those upgrades in the overall, and you'll get a much better product. I'd like to discuss with you a little bit more, and I could prove to you or show you what we're trying to accomplish there.
Yeah, please, if we can make time for that.
I just don't
because
want to.
it's
I don't want to go through the same process that we did last time. Basically, the process was council said, "Build me a dog park." 2 weeks later, I built you a dog park. Is it compliant? No. So I don't want to fall in. Now we have to spend more money to upgrade the park, so we make it compliant.
Oh, I can.
What I'm trying to tell you is, let's talk about it. Let's put into a capital, and then we could do the whole thing.
Yeah, I can appreciate it. It's been a year. So this is the part where it's frustrating for at least for me, that government, there's no reason for us to still have this conversation in a year. But that's fine, we'll discuss it further, and then I will update once we.
Yeah, I'd like to go
Thank
to-
you, Mayor.
Mayor, before we go.
Quickly, please.
Wait, 1 second. Because we did not decide to hold any appointments. We could not discuss that in executive session. So if it requires going out of order and reading and voting on the two resolutions that the city clerk has, I'd like to do that now, so then I could do the motion that I just made. So if it requires that, because I understand we need to do that first, I would like to to go out of order and do the resolution for those two resolutions that we have.
They weren't prepared. The resolutions are not prepared.
Yes, they are prepared. They most definitely are.
Yeah.
Removing the two members.
Mayor, would you like me
Yes,
to, at
please.
this point, break from the normal course and discuss the closed session?
If it's possible, yeah.
Yes, we can. For the public's edification, there was an item that needed to be discussed in closed session, which was a legal opinion from Mr. Bruins regarding mandatory training and attendance for members of the Clifton Zoning Board of Adjustment and potential legal litigation questions that were answered in that communication. But the relevant portion is this. It was brought to our attention that there were two members that had not completed the required training course within the allotted 18-month time period.
The relevant administrative code section, NJAC 5:87-1.8C states, "A board member who fails to satisfy the requirements of the training program within the prescribed 18-month period shall be deemed ineligible to continue to serve as a board member. Any board member deemed ineligible for failure to complete the required training course shall be removed as a member of the applicable board by the governing body of the affected municipality at its first regular meeting following the expiration of the prescribed 18-month period. Any board member removed under this provision shall not be eligible for subsequent appointment to any board without first successfully completing the training program." In light of that, I believe there'll be a motion that relates to the two affected board members.
Yes, exactly. So Nancy, if you could read those two resolutions, please.
Do I have a motion on that?
Motion to read those two resolutions.
It wouldn't be a motion to read the resolutions. It
To
would be
vote
a-
on.
It would be a motion to remove the two affected members.
I make that
as is
motion to
your
remove
obligation.
those two members.
Second.
Sorry, Mayor, I'm going to respectfully disagree with the attorney. Right now, we're looking to amend the agenda and move something to a different order in the agenda. So that requires a motion and a second and a vote to suspend the regular order of the agenda in order to then entertain the motion that the councilwoman wishes to.
That was why I had inquired whether there was any objection to doing it this way. I didn't hear any.
Well, I didn't hear any second to the motion to move it, so I would assume that there's at least one objection, perhaps six.
I make a motion, if that is required, to amend the order of business and vote on these two resolutions now. If that requires a second,
Second.
Roll call on that.
Councilman Gibson.
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay.
Madam
Reluctantly.
Clerk, you need to read what the council's doing. You need to read those two resolutions with the names.
I thought we
No.
were doing, a motion to amend.
Is this
the
just
order
the
of
vote to
business.
suspend?
Yes.
My apologies.
Which I'm reluctant to do because there's a reason for Robert's Rules of Order. However, it would appear the majority is going to be in favor of this, so yes.
Councilman Latona.
Yes.
Councilman Murphy.
Yes.
Councilman Pino.
I'm sorry, for clarification, we are voting to suspend,
Suspend the current order of business so that we can have a motion to remove the two members from the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
yes.
Councilman Sedgwick.
yes.
Mayor Grabowski.
Yes.
Motion carried. Okay.
Okay.
Resolution R100. Resolution removing Commissioner George Silva from the Clifton Zoning Board of Adjustment for failure to complete the training course in the required time period.
Roll call. No, we're good.
We have to vote on it.
Vote on it.
Yeah, vote on it.
Yeah, we'll have a roll call on it.
Well, actually,
motion and
you need a motion.
Yeah, motion
Motion,
and a
motion
second.
for what number is it? I didn't get the number,
That
sorry.
was Resolution R100. We need a motion.
Resolution to, make a motion to move Resolution R100?
No. Just a motion to pass Resolution R100.
A
Make that
motion
motion.
to pass R100.
Second? Okay. Mary.
Somebody second it? I didn't hear.
Yes.
We did.
Okay, I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
Okay, we need a roll call on this, please.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay?
An excellent example of why we shouldn't deviate from the agenda, but yes.
Councilman Latona?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sedgwick?
Yes, we have no choice according to state statute.
Mayor Grabowski?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, I'd like to go through the privilege of the,
Next motion. Yes.
Resolution R101, resolution removing Commissioner Yuri Jaskil from the Clifton Zoning Board of Adjustment for failure to complete the training course in the required time period. Can I have a motion for Resolution
Motion to pass Resolution 101.
Second.
Second.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay?
Yes.
Councilman Latona?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sedgwick?
Yes, as I stated in the previous one, according to
Mayor
state
Grabowski?
statute, we have.
yes.
Okay, motion carried.
And
Motion
now I
to,
make a
No, we're
motion
gonna
to
move on.
appoint Alyssa Aramo as first alternate to the zoning board.
Second.
Need a roll call.
Roll call. Oh, yeah, roll call, right?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay?
have concerns, while I can appreciate the applicant's belief that she's the most qualified candidate, I have concerns with any candidate who's going to join a zoning board and doesn't know what RLUIPA is. And the last time we had to deal with RLUIPA, it cost us $3.2 million, so my vote is no.
Councilman Latona.
I'm voting yes. This applicant, if you go through the resume, has a PhD in environmental engineering. We're a town that has had many issues when it comes to overdevelopment and quality of life issues. So to have a candidate that has a PhD in environmental engineering, that has been going to zoning board and planning board meetings for 7 years, asking tough questions to the architects, to the traffic, to the planner, talking about the land use planning course, infrastructure, teaches as a college professor. Until the council election came, I did not know her personally, other than meeting her, on a campaign trail, but from watching on TV and attending meetings, I watched Alessia, meeting after meeting, ask tough questions to all of these engineers from Negley Engineering and all these traffic people who give their opinion over and over of all these things, how everything is great and everything's going to work out by this overdevelopment. So for that reason, more than ever, I'm proudly voting yes.
Councilwoman Murphy.
This is not the way we agreed that we were going to do this. We were going to take this into closed session and discuss it separately. As far as what Alessia said, the lady that we chose prior to this was on a planning board, so you can't say that they haven't been to a planning board meeting because she was on a planning board. And many of the people that came to that meeting have watched meetings on TV. You don't have to actually be in the building. So my vote is, because of what we decided before, my vote is no.
Councilwoman Pino.
I was not under the impression that we would be voting for, aside from that one, for the other two. So I am not comfortable with this, so at this time I will be abstaining.
Councilwoman Sedgwick.
Yes.
Mayor Grabowski.
No.
Okay, we have a 3-3 vote, with 1 abstention, so the motion is denied.
Here, I'll make a motion to move Maureen O'Connor from the second alternate that we appointed her to earlier in the evening and move her to a full voting member.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson.
Yes.
Councilman Kaloje.
Yes.
Councilman Latona.
Seeing that we're actually going to have a open position, not being an alternate and have no other choice, for that reason, I'll be voting yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino.
I abstain.
Councilwoman Sedgwick.
We're 3 members short on the zoning board. The zoning board is, after the council, our most important board. It dictates the direction of this city. My vote is yes.
Mayor Grabowski.
Yes.
Vote is 6 yes, 1 abstention, motion carried.
Mayor, I make a motion to appoint George Silva to the first alternate position for the zoning board.
Mayor, through you, that's an
Yeah.
illegal motion because he hasn't taken the class.
If I might, Councilwoman. So pursuant to the statute that we read, the better course of action, if that's the intent of the council, if I may, Mr. Silva apparently sent a letter that I think is on the agenda that he's scheduled for the course this Saturday. So the better process would be to wait until the next meeting.
When we actually have the resolutions to appoint. So wouldn't you need a direction this meeting?
I think after reviewing it and discussing it a little bit further, the sentence that indicates any board member removed under this section shall not be eligible for subsequent appointment to any board without first successfully completing the training program, the better course of action would probably be to wait till the next meeting.
So then I will make a motion to appoint David Braid as the second alternate to the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Councilman Gibson.
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay.
Yes.
Councilman Latona.
During the interview process, David said a lot of good things as a candidate about taking ownership and problem solving and that kind of thing, not to get into some of the things he said, but I'm going to vote yes.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino.
I'm abstaining.
Councilwoman Sedgwick-Lula.
Yes.
Mayor Grabowski.
Yes.
We have 6 yes, 1 abstention, motion carried.
Okay. Now we could go to privileges.
Will those newly appointed members be on the zoning board in time for their next meeting?
So Nancy, you have the blank resolutions that we could fill in, the ones that were not appointed tonight? Okay, so the short answer is yes. If you would like, since the meeting is before the next council meeting, Nancy could amend the blank resolution that she was provided to fill in the names so that we could have them on for tonight. They would have to get sworn in, though, before the
of course.
the next
As I
meeting.
understand it, we have Maureen as a full member
Yes,
and David Braid as alternate number 2,
right,
leaving alternate number 1
empty,
open, correct?
right.
I make a motion to appoint Chris Bellini as first alternate.
Can I make a motion to appoint? Can we do more than one?
Motion on, we have one
We can
motion.
only
Oh,
do
one at a time. Okay.
Okay, we have a motion for Chris Bellini as alternate number 1. Is there a second? Seeing no second. I know.
I make a motion to nominate Dwight Hernandez.
Who?
Dwight Hernandez for the second alternate.
For first alternate.
First alternate, excuse me.
Is there a second?
If I turn my mic on, I'll second it.
You'll have a roll call on that?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay?
Again, this is a candidate who is unfamiliar with RLUIPA. No.
Councilman Latona?
Again, after speaking about the qualifications of Alessia and talking about RLUIPA, there was only one candidate that actually knew that answer. So to Councilman Kalojay for his previous vote on another candidate. Okay, I correct myself then on what RLUIPA was. But again, for the purpose that I cannot vote to fill this board without a candidate that is disqualified says a lot. It's very concerning to me. It says a lot. And I understand where it's coming from because I've gone up against that brick wall because there's people in 900 City Hall that don't want qualified candidates who ask tough questions on any board in this city. So for that reason, I'm voting no.
Councilwoman Murphy?
No.
Councilwoman Pino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sedgwick-Lula?
Let's talk about this not knowing RLUIPA. Let's be honest. If you're in a room with all the candidates and the first person doesn't know the answer and the phones get pulled out and everybody starts Googling what RLUIPA is, that's not a justification for appointing somebody, in my opinion, for a zoning board or not. And I agree with Councilman Latona. Alyssa Aramo is qualified, as she said, to teach a land use course. And quite frankly, the person who asked about RLUIPA couldn't even pronounce it. So, you know, if we're going to pick and choose, and I agree, we need qualified people. We don't need friends and friends of and friends and friends of. We need people to move this city forward. And it's a sin that somebody that can teach a land use course could not get 4 votes on this council.
I'm voting no.
Mayor Grabowski?
No.
We have 2 yes, 5 no. Motion is denied.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to hold the other seat open to see if Mr. Silva does take the course on the weekend and he can be reinstated.
Second.
Who seconded that?
Mayor, through you to the legal. Is that a legal motion? You just read a state statute that says we cannot appoint a person. We are short a member of the zoning board. And do you think that's a legal motion?
Yes, as
I
I
don't.
explained before.
Okay, we'll have a roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson?
What's the motion?
Hold
Essentially, a
seat
motion to
open.
table.
Yes.
Councilman Kaloje?
Yes, I'll agree to the motion to table.
No.
Thank you. Councilman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Pino?
Yes?
Councilman Sedgwick?
No.
Mayor Grabowski?
Yes.
5 yes, 2 no. Motion carried.
Okay, now we can move to the privilege of the floor for the councilman. Now, Councilman Latona starts first. And listen, please, let's hold it to we have 5 minutes, but you're allowed to extend it to 10. Let's try to hold it that, please. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm actually going to do a little jumping around real quick. So I just want to go off some of the speakers with Bart bringing up the American flag as a veteran. Obviously, our flag flies dead center in City Hall, and obviously, as we celebrate all of our different cultures in our country, that we do flag raisings to honor those on those weekends. So our American flag always flies, per etiquette, dead center in City Hall as we celebrate other cultures. Mickey, with the crossing guard issue, Mr. Volano made a comment about we funded more positions. The problem isn't funding more positions. The problem is, as I watched last year, we gave confidential after confidential and lawyers and consultants and all these people up here, these big pay raises. Our pyramid in this town, ladies and gentlemen, is upside down. We're giving so much money to a handful of people up here while the people down here don't see it. So we're paying our crossing guards $16 an hour. We have 9 or 10 open positions. Besides the fact that we now have to pull police officers who now, if someone gets in an accident or if there's a crime being committed, can't leave that post for 2 hours, so it's a safety issue. Or we have to pull our traffic people, so now they're not out providing that or bringing in revenue for the tickets. I don't even know how we can still be having this conversation. That's something should have been done long ago, so we can add Mr. Volano 20 more positions. But as long as we're paying $16 an hour, they only get a couple hours a day, it's never going to be fixed. So this council needs, maybe on the agenda for next item, to raise the pay to fill the 9 or 10 empty positions we have now. Because if a child gets hit, besides the safety aspect of it, the liability on the taxpayers in the city, besides that child's safety, is a lot more than the money we're not spending that we should be spending. Alessi with the zoning board position, I'm not going to get into any more tonight. I'm going to hold that speech for next meeting because I went to the planning board meeting last week and I'm not shocked about what happened tonight. And I'm going to save that. I had notes in here, but I'm going to save it for next meeting. The brick walls that are put up, the lack of transparency, the throwing a grenade at the 11th hour with minutes to go, that after we haven't addressed our planning board master plan for 15 years, that minutes into the first administration, asking no questions, that a motion was made to update the master plan that did nothing to address the high-density housing and commercial real estate. The one question I asked the planner says a lot. And they can put up all the brick walls they want, ladies and gentlemen, but they will be cracked. I promise you. I ran on that. The people want to hear that, and they want something done. So that little tight-knit group, and I call it the good old boys and the good old boys and girls, could hang and clinch as hard as they want. The questions are going to be asked, and those answers are going to be answered. Abraham, with transparency, with the work session, I actually was going to look, and I assume I can because it's public record through the city clerk, that when we get this packet that explains everything, part of my transparency plan is actually something I thought about in this last week or two, is to post the packet on social media. I guess we should be able to do it on our, is it on the agenda? Is it online, Mr. Valano?
All of the agendas are on the website, including the planning and the zoning. They're all posted up prior to the meeting on the website.
So this full packet is part of the PDF that's online? that the-
No.
It's not?
No, but
Okay.
there is a copy in my office. Anyone can come in Friday, let's say 4 o'clock, but we're going home.
So, ladies and
On
gentlemen,
Monday.
as I get this packet, I'm going to ask the city to actually post it on the internet, on the site, so everyone can see it. If
Can't do that.
we can't do it,
You can't put that whole thing on.
it's a PDF file.
It's like 500 pages.
It's the packet we get.
Yeah.
So we can't send that PDF file?
Well, that's going
Okay.
to have to be up to council then if you want.
Transparency will come there, so we'll leave it at that there. I think that's all the questions. Let me go through my notes. The road closures, Mr. Valano brought it up tonight about having better coordination with the city, that when we have road closures between the city and the county, to have notices, to let the residents know, and to not close the same roads that are the detours to the primary road that's being closed. So I'm glad that that happened. I'm glad we're working in the right direction to fix that. Mayor, through you and Mr. Valano, I brought it up once before with the quality control of the road. So if you go on Van Houten Ave, some utilities, when they pave the road and they fix it, they do a good job. Some, if you go on Van Houten Ave, from Mount Prospect to Van Houten right now, there's 2 or 3 strips that are literally half speed bumps. So do we have any quality control measure, or can we talk to the utilities that when the road is dug up and fixed, that when they need to put it back to some type of close original form, that the residents aren't driving on moon craters for 6 or 12 months waiting for the road to be repaired?
I will let the county know that because they oversee the construction operation. And just to correct you, Councilman, the rate of the crossing guard, thank you, it's not set at 6, there's a range. So you could be paid, I think it's up to $25 tops out, Mr. So you kept indicating that they only get paid $16. That's not correct. There is a range.
According to the flyer, that's the starting salary, so if I'm wrong,
Well,
that's what the
starting,
flyer says.
starting,
Right,
but that
starting.
gives you. right,
Whatever
so-
it is, we got 9 open spots, we're not filling them, we've been talking about this for a
What
long
we do is
time.
when you first start, we usually start you at the lower range, and then you progress up to the top.
Again, obviously, that ain't working because we have 9 open spots, and crossing guard spots are being left open. I brought up about supporting Clifton businesses first. Obviously, we go out to bid. As everyone knows, I'm a big fan of going out to bid. Speaking of going out, I received the resolution for claims to be paid. I'll be sending you, Mr. Valano. I have a lot of questions because there's a lot of areas where we can do cost savings in the budget. This is the first one I received. So for that tonight, I'm not going to spend time on it, other than to say there's a lot of redundancy and magic words in here of places we can work on. Zoning, I won't get into some of the issues with zoning. I'm not going to get into tonight, but again, some of the changes that were being offered by zoning and the planning board do nothing to fix the problems that we're having. So even, I appreciate the zoning board bringing back some suggestions about going from 5-foot fence to 6-foot fence. Almost every suggestion we're getting back, ladies and gentlemen, from the planning and the zoning board is about the little people, the residents. Their 5-foot fence, a 6-foot fence, where they can park their garbage cans. Nothing to fix and address the quality of life issues being caused by the high-density housing, high-density commercial real estate from being built. The traffic, the infrastructure fails, the brown water, all these things we're talking about, the sewer backups. So that needs to get addressed. I'm going to stay away from the rest of the master plan because it was supposed to be on the agenda, I assume, for tonight, from Mayor that came from the last meeting, that it was going to be sent to us, but we haven't received it yet. Okay, so for next meeting, we can have that, because that, ladies and gentlemen, people, you need to come to this, Mike, you need to come to City Hall, okay? Because what happened at that planning board meeting that was up for discussion, and then all of a sudden try to get passed through like this, in the first meeting after a new election says a lot. 20 years since the last update. I was able to attend the liaison meetings for our seniors and disabled committees. I'll be looking forward to working with them to improve their lives of our seniors and disabled. As everyone knows, that is an extra special place in my heart. And the veterans, I was able to attend the liaison committee for the Civil Rights and the Towing Committee with the Civil Rights Committee. Bylaws are being drawn up and some legal issues being worked out as that committee's formed. And with the towers, we talked about updating, it went through tonight with the agenda, that the prices for the towers has been the same for about 15 years, so it was time to update them. Resolution to approve claims I spoke about. I'll be reaching out again to you, Mr. Villano. To my council colleagues, thank you. Again, with transparency, this should have been done long ago. Anytime this council meets in a quorum, it should be broadcasted. We pay franchise fees from Verizon and Cablevision. Franchise fees from these companies should be used for public access to City Hall, to our police station, our firehouses, and Channel 77 and 40. That's what franchise fees are for, and that's what we should always be looking to do. So thank you to my council colleagues that moving forward, all these special meetings will be spent. Again, I don't think it needed a special change. I had this conversation with Mr. Villano. Just like one, Mayor, through you to Mr. Villano, with the change with having the specials for the council meetings, how did that come about?
I instructed the chief and I, the police chief and I had this conversation, and we decided that we would provide security. So in case something happens, we're prepared, rather than being, something happens and then why don't you do something about it? So that was really the thought. Security for the entire city.
Okay, so just two questions on that. I agree with that.
Councilman, time is up.
Okay. Can I just have 30 seconds to finish my question?
Colleagues.
Just last question. Just a question, I'm all about security, but I came to a zoning planning board meeting and there was no security here. We don't have them for the zoning board. We have committees here. People walk in and out of City Hall all day, every day. So the change was only made for council meetings.
Well, it was initially done just for the council, but eventually the thought was when we go back to our normal, resort back, we would have, rather than just screening only the folks that come into the courtroom, the thought was that we would screen anyone coming into the building. Okay. So that way we protect all the employees, not just the people in the court.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Like I said, it's just the other meetings aren't being done. Thank you. Everyone have a good night.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Thank you. First, I'd like to address Mrs. Mestry. First of all, the comment was made tonight at the meeting that the different communities should have been consulted, and I don't know how we would possibly do that. Your community, yes, because you have an organization. Secondly, I don't think we realized how much this would affect certain communities. I never said anything about taxpayer dollars or anything like that. My only thought was Saturdays and Sundays in July and August. It's a lot on all of us. This is, a part-time job that's really a full-time job. And when we don't have the opportunity to be with our families in the summer on the weekends, it's hard on us. But as I stated in the meeting, now that everybody knows how important this is, and we have made our point across that we will probably not be at a lot of the flag raisings, and nobody seems to, I don't want to say that they don't care, but nobody seems that they're going to be concerned whether we're there or not, then to me, it's all well and good. And, I think all of us agree that, we never anticipated how much people would be upset by this. You and I have gotten to know each other a little bit. You know where my head is at, and it's definitely with all the different communities in the big city of Clifton. So I hope that helps. Secondly, the Action Clifton Committee, which has not met in 3 years. Since COVID started, the mayor was in charge of it, and he stopped all the meetings. And I was given the opportunity to lead that committee. We'll be meeting in March. I think it's the second Monday, and I'm going to read the places that we have openings, so, because it's the 16 different areas of the city that meet for this committee. So we have openings in Allwood, Athenia, Botany, Delawana, no, not Dutch Hill. Dutch Hill's full. Greg Lawn, I didn't even know that was a section. Hazel, Knollwood, Lakeview, Maple Valley, Montclair Heights, Oak Ridge, and all the other ones are filled. So if you would like to be on this committee, please get in touch with me or with Nancy, and we'll let you know when the meeting will be, and hopefully it'll be a great committee, because basically what it is everybody from the different sections of the city getting together and saying, you know, this happened, or I have a pothole and it wasn't addressed, or it's just kind of like a bickering session, but in a good way, to let us know what's going on in your section of the city. Third, through you, Mayor, to the city manager. So Councilwoman Pino suggested that from this point on, we have to report on our committees, and like there's a report in our packet tonight from one of her committees. And is this what we're all expected to do? And if it is, when did this happen? No, the city.
Councilwoman, it's something that we've had in place for quite some time. So typically when a liaison attends one of the meetings, you bring back whatever information, because I don't attend all the meetings. I try to attend as many as I can, and I usually take some notes so that I can report back, but I don't attend all of them. So we rely on you to bring that information back and just give a quick update of what you discussed.
Right, and I'm on a lot of committees, and during my 10 minutes, that's usually what I talk about, what happened, but not everyday things like, you know, Dunny Park is going to get a new fence or whatever. So are we supposed to make a report like the councilwoman made for her committee, or is it just going to be the way it used to be if something important comes up?
I leave that to your discretion, to the council's discretion.
Okay, so I'm going to report on the homeless committee, which I am a huge part of. We met 2 weeks ago. They also had the point in time count at the end of January, and January 25th, right? So that's when they count all the homeless people in the state, and each city does it separately. We counted, the health department counted our homeless people. 17 were there to be counted, and they can't be counted twice because it's registered in each city. So one person couldn't go to Passaic, get counted, Clifton and Patterson to get counted. We had 17, and we also had 3 that unfortunately were in the hospital. So we have 20 homeless people now. And when this gets reported to the state, then we get funding for this, and that's partially how we pay for the warming center, which is being used this year. And luckily, we've had some really cold nights, and we have 17 cots set up, because that's the number we had last year, 17. And the people come, they're brought there by the police if they need a ride from wherever they are, and they can go to sleep, they can, we have a little bit of food for them, we have water, and the main thing we have is warmth. They're in a warm building and they have a blanket, and each time they come, they're given the same cot and the same blanket, so it's not like anybody's sharing germs. It's a very, I'm sorry, I'm getting choked up about this, but it's a very, very good thing that we're doing, because we don't want people that unfortunately aren't as lucky as we are to go to sleep under a warm truck, and when the truck cools off and it goes down to 2 degrees, they freeze to death in the middle of the night. We wouldn't even want that for a pet, let alone a human being. So that's primarily what the homeless committee met about, and everything's going along good. We have a great little staff working there, working part-time. Anything I left out, Nick? No? Good. And thank you for your attention, and that's all I have.
Councilwoman Pino.
Thank you. Good evening. So I just have a couple things. First, I want to again give a shout out and congratulate one of our Clifton businesses that are opened this weekend, Revive Body Nutrition on 9 Sheridan Avenue. It's like a juice bar. They make amazing smoothies, all healthy. So please definitely go out, show some love and support to our small businesses. They just came to Clifton, 9 Sheridan Avenue. Also, I want to thank again the city employees and Mr. Villano for giving me a guided tour, if you may, or walkthrough of the city. I did that when I first came on to council, and I wanted to do it again as I got reelected for my second term, just to kind of check in with the different departments. And more importantly, my goal is to ensure that some of the services that we are providing for the city, that we're getting out to the residents. So more to follow on that. I am working on something, but I just want to remind everyone again that our recycling guide is out. You should have received one in the mail, but if you haven't or it got misplaced, please come down to City Hall. You can grab one here or at the DPW or online, but I like the paper. Okay. So I have that, grand opening. Mayor, to you, to our city clerk, Ms. Ferrigno, just out of curiosity, did you get any more applications for the Civil Rights Committee? No? Okay, I'll follow up with that, because I know there was someone that was going to, from one of those places that we have open. Okay. Just to comment that Councilwoman Murphy made regarding the leaders. Not sure if you noticed, Councilwoman, but the other leaders, or the other communities, I should say, that would have been affected by this are leaders who have been with our community for many, many years, which I believe you know personally, like the Dominican community, Amparo Camano, she's the head of that. Manuel Lora, Dominican community, Ruth Deep, you've gone there, she says you and the rest of, they've never missed a meeting. She's the Colombian. So a lot of the leaders, I believe, have made it a conscious effort to ensure that their leaders know who they are. So also, I wanted to make an announcement for February 16th. School 4 PTO is having a fundraiser at Wise Guys in Clifton, the pizzeria at 353 Crooks Avenue. If you could please come out and support. Again, that's February 16th. You could just go have dinner there, and a portion of the proceeds will come back to the school. So we want to say thank you in advance for your support on that. Let's see. To the gentleman, I believe his first name was Bart, that spoke about the foxes in the dog park, but more importantly, and I'm going to quote, he said, "There is no reason why my tax dollars should pay for their security." So I am one of their that you referred to, and I just wanted to let you know that I also pay tax dollars. Actually, I just received my bill in the mail a couple days ago, and I'm at almost $16,000 a year in taxes. So that's also my tax dollars, and Clifton is all our cities. But anyway, and finally, let's see, I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. On a personal note, I want to wish happy birthday to my niece, Catalea. Happy sixth birthday, honey. And also want to wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day. Unfortunately, 9 years ago, Valentine's Day was a little tainted for us. It was the day we buried our sister. Happy Valentine's Day, Kat. And finally, how much time do I have, Ms. Ferrigno? How much time do I have? 30 seconds. Okay. Well, then I guess, Ms. Councilwoman Murphy, I know you also said you had a meeting with the Botany SID and Economic Development that unfortunately we didn't get an update on that. So if you
Botany
could.
SID is tomorrow.
Oh, you didn't have one in the last 2 weeks? There wasn't one? Oh, okay. So I must have wrote that. And Economic Development, is there any updates on your meeting if you can give us?
Unfortunately, the Homeless Committee and Economic Development met at the exact same time, so the mayor and Councilwoman Cedric Kohler covered that meeting.
Oh, okay. Councilwoman, any quick 30 seconds you can give us an update on anything?
Councilwoman?
Oh, could you, then would you mind addressing in your comments so the public can know what happened in economic development? I appreciate that. Thank you so much, folks. I hope everyone has a wonderful evening and get home safe.
Councilman Sadrakula.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the speakers that came out. I don't see Bart that spoke first in the audience, but Bart, almost every road in the city of Clifton is a speedway. I've been a proponent for a long time for speed tables, not speed tables which are built into the road. Montclair has several of them, whether it's on Upper Mountain Avenue, Park Avenue, Park Street, and they work again. I'm a huge proponent of them. Hopefully someday we can get them because we need it. Mayor, through you to the city manager, when is the meetings, I'm sorry, I turned my head and then I don't think you could hear. When is the meeting scheduled with the CEO of Passaic Valley Water to come to a council meeting?
We haven't scheduled it yet, Councilwoman.
Okay, can you work on that, please?
Sure.
Great.
Over the next couple of meetings, okay?
Fine. That's good with everybody, I think. I don't think we... Mayor, also through you to the city manager, can you give us an update on Station 1 Firehouse? How is that progressing? I think at one time you did say it should be open in February.
It should have been opened already, but we ran into a problem with the alarm system and the subcontractor that's doing our work, and it's delayed the project a bit. So we are regrouping. In fact, we're meeting with the architect, the contractor, over the next week to find out what needs to be done to move this forward.
Okay, thank you. One of the things that I think we need to look at, and I know we have a committee on the council that is with the legislators, but our neighboring cities, whether it's Passaic or Patterson, Passaic got $14 million for a parking garage. Every day you pick up the paper, Patterson is getting something. I don't know about you, but I'm sick of being on the short end of the stick. Clifton doesn't get anything. We need to press our legislators. We need to get funding. I mean, look what the beautiful job that they're doing with the falls. This would be this property should be a showcase. It was one of the only 2 quarantine stations in the country. When I was a young girl, it was a big thing to pass here and to see if you saw a giraffe out of one of the barns. Again, this could be such a great thing. With that, Mayor, through you to Mr. Villano, the barn, I forgot what it's called, what number it is, next to us that's being restored. It's coming along beautifully, beautifully.
Yes.
Do we know when he will be done?
I'm not sure when they'll be done. They don't move as fast as the rest of the contractors. They're
No,
more
I know.
meticulous and they're very detailed.
The person that's restoring the barn that was put the bid in is Deltec, isn't that the name of it? Deltec. They worked on the Hamilton House. They worked on the beautiful house in Westerville Park. That's what he does, is historic renovation. So if you haven't passed or when you leave tonight, those are that in the audience, go by and look because it's being restored to the way that was. But that was only the first, it's the outside. We still have to get funding for phase 2 for the inside. I'd love to see the inside of that barn be restored and have a museum for all the beautiful artifacts and historical things that are either stored in the basement of the library or maybe the basement of here. And again, we need to use this, but we need to press our legislators. Clifton can't be on the short end of the stick. So I don't know if that would require the committee, that I believe there's 3 council members that are on it with the city manager, but I think meetings need to be set up with our legislative. They know how to come here during election time to take photo ops in front of City Hall. Well, now we need funding. We need to get funding the way our sister cities. So I hope that the council, the members on that committee, as well as the city manager, start looking at it, because it's the squeaky wheel that gets it. And I know from talking to the two mayors of both municipalities, they're constantly on the phone with legislators, and they're getting what they want, whether it's for parks or whatever. It's just time we do it. And let's see what else. We talked about crossing guards. I'm not going to address Alicia. I said what I had to. I think you got the message loud and clear. But I hope you don't get discouraged. And I know you can be very effective on that side of the podium as well. So I hope you do. And I'm really very sorry, to be honest with you, because I do believe you were very qualified for it. And if we were looking at straight qualifications, there's no reason anyone up here shouldn't have voted for you. But again, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry there's no dialogue with the residents. I'm sorry. But again, I think that's all I have to say for tonight. Again, everyone be safe and look for, one last thing. Our budget meeting is on the 27th, I believe, of February at 6 p.m. It will be televised. Thank you.
Councilwoman, Economic Development, anything to report?
I'm done with my Thank you.
Mayor, could you let us know?
We're
Oh, no, when you go on for Economic Development, since the.
Sorry?
Economic Development, the meeting you attended?
Right.
Yeah, the councilwoman doesn't want to share with the public. Would you mind sharing anything that happened in that committee meeting after, when it's your turn? Thank you. Yeah.
Councilman.
Thanks, Mayor. Bart from Delawana Avenue. I just want you to know that the animal control cannot handle the foxes. It comes under the New Jersey Fish and Wildlife. But you should contact them. They will give you some information on foxes and coyotes and things that are from our area. With reference to Delawana and speeding, I think the number one complaint that myself and probably my colleagues get is speeding and or parking. One of the two, they're very close. So they're speeding without the city, so it's an enforcement issue that will go through our city manager form of government and go to the chief of police for a resolution. Just briefly, I'm going to mention to you about the flags. You know, with reference to the flags, we try to do something to make it positive, not negative. I'm sorry that it took so much for flags. Mickey Gaudette, you know how I feel about having a crossing guard in front of 43 Clifton Avenue. So if we could have it, we definitely should have that top priority. If we're going to add one, then that should be the place that it really should be added. I have to agree with Councilwoman Sajikula. I am just going to make one statement very, very clear. Alessia, I personally am sorry. I thought for sure, without any doubt in my mind, you would be the first contender, and it was like a no-brainer to me. I'm just very surprised, and I don't know how that happened, but it happened, and we'll see what we can do in the future. So I send my personal apologies to you. With reference to the TOR committee, I know that we had mentioned that already. Really, all that really did was just raise some of the rates. They did not have any kind of rate hike since 2003. So that was for our towing committee. But I do have to say one thing. I just want to give a little special thanks to Lieutenant Brody. Lieutenant Brody is in charge of a lot of stuff within the city, but he also is in charge of the towers. He thought outside the box, and because of his thinking, we were going to add about $50,000 a year in administration fees, which I thought was really pretty good. If we can keep on having our employees thinking outside the box like that, I think it's really great. So I just want to say thanks to him. I know that $50,000 is really a great thing. With reference to our Traffic Safety Council, there were a bunch of things that came up. We've been having a lot of crashes at the intersection of Mount Prospect and Orwood Road, so we are looking into that a little bit further. That's one of the main issues that we've had. We've also had some issues with reference to traffic and parking conditions over on Pershing Road, Landis Place, Dwight Terrace, Irma Avenue. It's been repetitive for about 2 years. I know that the city manager and other people have gone and spoken to the mosque in the area with reference to try to help alleviate the parking conditions. I know that they have mentioned that they want to be good neighbors, but it became more than just that. It's an absolute safety issue because you have to pull into Pershing Road to even see the people coming up and down. And it's a rippling effect because it winds up being involved with our master plan also. So we've tried our best to get our people in law enforcement to get up there to take care of the problem. That seems to be a little bit of a difficulty. But as a matter of fact, last week they issued 13 summonses, which I really appreciated. And through you, Mayor, to the city manager, I mentioned to you this week, did we happen to find out how many they issued this past Friday?
I can get that information for you. I reported it to the police chief and also to continue to step up enforcement in that area, so I could get that for last week.
I would just appreciate, because I want to compile it, because when we come up to the master plan, then I'll be able to speak accurately about what is happening concerning our parking condition, especially up in that area. I want to say condolences to the Tuzzolino family on the loss of George Tuzzolino, long time Clifton man. He's a Marine, and he was 87 years old. He's a retired police officer. So, and I think that's all I have tonight. Thank you very much.
Councilman Kaloje.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. I missed the January 31st budget meeting due to quarantine, but I did have an opportunity to review the documents, and so I admit that some of these answers may have already been provided, and my observations from looking through the budget documents may actually be obsolete. But as it stands right now, while we may have a balanced budget that's able to be adopted, it is a budget that's structurally unsound. It relies heavily upon one-time revenues to plug gaps and holes. In its present form, it really isn't sustainable for reoccurring expenses that need to match reoccurring revenues, and this budget currently is not doing that. I mean, on the happy side, it's weaning off of the reliance on fund balance by a little over $1 million from the year before, but it's still $1.1 million higher than pre-pandemic level budgets were. And from a bond rating perspective, a budget this size should really be carrying a fund balance of somewhere around $6 million, and I think this was shaving it down to closer to $5 million. Its over-reliance on the one-time revenue is mostly American Rescue Plan driven. Last year, $6.3 million was used to plug the hole in the budget. This year, we're looking at $4 million to plug a hole in a budget. And the truth is that because American Rescue Plan money is one-time money, it would be far better suited to be applied to one-time expenses. It's capital expenses, projects that are allowable under the American Rescue Plan, that would then give us the ability to not have to borrow money to do these capital plans, like stormwater, sewers, and ultimately save ourselves tens of thousands of dollars, $500,000 over the course of a couple of years in interest payments that will have to get picked up by the taxpayers because we're instead spending this money short-term instead of looking at it from a long-term perspective. And I think part of what really struck me was that the previous council had made a decision, and it's a decision that I agree with, that infused $1.3 million to address police officer retention. And unfortunately, the way this budget's going in terms of its trajectory, 2 years from now, we're going to be talking about laying off the very people that we wanted to keep. And that's problematic. It's also problematic because this budget, as it's been put together, doesn't allow for the building of future budgets. It's nowhere close to being a multi-year budget. And so we can't even have a conversation on expanding the table of organization for police officers and bringing on more people to patrol so that we can get out in the Delawana section more often, and we can get out in the Lakeview section and the Montclair Heights section more often, because we're putting together a budget that is very short-term and myopic in its thinking. In its proposed form, it's not a budget that I'm able to support because it is unsustainable. And it's not going to help us with our past goals, and it's not going to help us to be able to create any future goals. But I look forward to working with my colleagues on the 27th so that we can have a discussion about how to put together a budget that is going to be honest and is going to support the services that we want to provide, and not have a debate on can we lower the taxes from $51 on an average home to $43 on an average home. Because while no one on this dais wants to raise taxes, I don't think anyone on this dais either wants to spend money to retain police officers and then 2 years later have to lay them off because we can't afford to continue to pay for them. I also want to take this opportunity to again condemn the act of violence that was perpetrated against the Bloomfield Synagogue. I think it's important that community leaders speak out against acts of violence directed at specific groups based on religion or race or gender. Discrimination and hate crimes in any form have no place in our democracy. And Clifton is one of the most diverse cities in the country. We need to stand together in solidarity against extremism. I'm committed to erasing anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, homophobia, xenophobia, and any attacks against any of the disenfranchised or vulnerable. We need to be mindful that words crossing a line normalize hate, and that sick minds will then redraw crossing that line and take it into actions. And we need to be cognizant that our policies may inadvertently encourage and promote hate or discrimination, like banning when you can have a flag raising, or talking about parking as if it is a safety issue when it is connected to a synagogue or a church or a temple or a mosque. So when I saw this, I thought about Rabbi Skolnick, and decades ago, his synagogue was desecrated, and the kids that did it were caught, and they came before the judge. And one of the things that has stuck with me for all these years is the fact that he got up there when they were about to be sentenced, and he spoke about the need to educate. That if you want to combat hatred, you need to educate. You need to listen. You need to be listened to. And you need to work that. And I remember that he put together, he had the judge sentence them to somehow having to help them at the synagogue and learn about the Holocaust, rather than having them fined and sending them off and, for all we know, making them angrier and looking to do another hate crime in some future day. So I think we can learn a lot from Rabbi Skolnick. God rest his soul, he recently passed. But, my pledge to my community is that my words and my actions and my policies are always going to be to protect our American democratic values. That says, give me your tired, give me your poor, give me your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. And I think that all of us as leaders need to make sure in no uncertain terms that we condemn actions like that, and that we will work to put together policies that make sure that everyone is treated fairly. And so just like when we pledge allegiance to the flag, we have liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And first, thanks everyone for coming out tonight. It's always good to see good attendance at the city council meeting. Excuse me, no outbursts. Thank you. Like Nick said, we had a fairly decent budget meeting last time, and we have another one coming up. And we're moving ahead, with things like the planning board things and issues of ordinance. And just by way of example, we're trying to revise some of these ordinances early on. And I could just explain one. One of them we're working on is a setback. We have a 35-foot setback. We're going to change it to 25-foot. And this is because people come in front of the board and they want a variance to maybe put a deck up so they need to ask for a 10-foot variance. Well, we're going to revise that to go from 35 to 25, because what happens is we had 200 applications for these setbacks, and all 200 were passed. So by alleviating this and revising this ordinance, first, we save the homeowner anywhere between $200 and $400 to coming for the application. Secondly, almost 99% of this particular variance ordinance were passed, I'd say out of 200, maybe 199 were given. So what happens is it alleviates the overload on the boards for having applications come in front of the board. So it gives them a little leeway that they're then so overwhelmed with applications. So we are working on these things. There's quite a few other ones that we're going to get rolling. So by way of example, we're trying to show that the people that we are moving ahead, we're trying to do things, and we're being proactive with things, and it does affect the planning of the city. Firstly, let me just say that John Beagle asked me to make it that dog licenses at Botany Village tomorrow between 3 and 6, and the Moderna COVID-19 booster will be at City Hall February 21st, 2003. And then just to address the flag issue, it was on for discussion today, and that's what we did. We discussed it in full, and that's what happens. We compromise, we come up with ideas, and that's all it was about. It wasn't about making big changes. It was coming to try to tweak this so that it's amicable and makes it easier for everyone to celebrate their cultures. So we didn't make any big changes, but we did make some changes on how we're going to run them, and that'll be implemented when people come for the application. To answer Councilwoman's about the economic development, that's really not a committee that takes notes. It's an informal committee. And so people understand. People come to us with a wish list or what they'd like to have. They may say we want, and what we say, we just listen to them and we say, well, this might need a variance here, this might need to go in front of the planning board. It's nothing that you report back to the public. By way of example, someone came and said, yeah, I'd like to put a car wash somewhere, and we said, well, you would have to go maybe for a site plan approval. You might have to go in front of the Board of Adjustments. And so they say, okay, maybe this is something we want to do. Another application comes in and they'll say, well, gee, we're looking at a piece of property. We'd like to put, I don't know, a 3-family unit up on a RA1 spot. And they would talk to the zoning and they would say, well, it's not really practical. It's not a good idea, so don't waste your money. It's not a committee that we take notes. We just give advice. We listen to them, and then they make the decision. We just direct them, or we say this might be a good idea. It's not even something that they may even want to really do. They come to us so that they don't waste their money and their time going in front of a board when it's probably not going to, we save them a lot of time and a lot of money. You want to add to that, Mr. Lund?
Some of these are under contract, purchasing the property so. In essence, what the applicant is saying, really, I don't want to disclose all this information because it might ruin the contract. So, I mean, we could give you ideas of what we talk about. We can't give you the specifics as to where they're going to go because, again, we're trying to protect the people that are coming to us asking for information or direction.
Right. It's an informal. Someone just comes with a wish list, and we just try to direct them and save them money for putting an application in.
Thank you, Mayor, for the explanation. I appreciate that.
It's okay.
Thank you.
That's all I have. We could go to, we have to remove some of the
I
resolutions.
have late resolutions, Mayor.
Okay.
RO 98, resolution appointing member to the CATV Committee. 99, resolution appointing member to the Finance Bond Advisory Committee, which was tabled. So we're going to need a motion on that to table. I read 100 and 101 already. 102, whoops, is a resolution appointing alternate 2 to the Clifton Zoning Board of Adjustment. Resolution 103 is resolution appointing member to the Clifton Zoning Board of Adjustment.
So can you do the resolution to table first?
Sorry? Yeah, that would be 99.
I'll make that motion to table R99.
Seriously.
Roll call on that?
And Nancy, can I get a separate roll call? They can be grouped together. R72, 76, and 79. Thank you.
Okay,
We have
first the roll
we need a roll
call
call
on
on this.
99. Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Kolodjay?
Yes.
Councilman Latona?
Yes.
Councilman Murphy?
Yes.
Murphy? Did you say?
I said yes.
Councilwoman Pino?
Yes.
Councilman Sedgwick?
Yes.
Mayor Grabowski?
Yes.
Okay, motion on 72, 76, and 79.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Colodge?
Yes.
Councilman Latona?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino? Councilman Sedgwick?
Yes.
Mayor Grabowski?
Yes.
Motion carried. Motion on the group.
Motion on the group.
Roll call.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Colodge?
Yes to the group.
Councilman Latona?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino?
Yes.
Councilman Sedgwick?
Yes.
Mayor Grabowski?
Yes.
Motion carried. Can I have a motion to go back into executive session?
Motion to go back into executive session.
Second.
Roll call. We don't need a roll call.
We just stay
Go
here.
back.
Okay.
Yeah.
We stay here.
We have to go back in.
That's not what he said.
Nick, we could stay.
Regarding mandatory training and attendance for members of the Clifton Board of Adjustment and potential litigation. These two items were discussed under the potential litigation exception to the Open Public Meetings Act, and more specifically, and in addition, on the Board of Adjustment issue that also involves the personnel exception. For the public's edification, we also received a question and were provided a case, Burnett versus Gloucester County Board of Public Chosen Freeholders, which we have reviewed, and we believe that after review of that, these items were properly discussed in closed session, even quoting from some language in the case that indicates the intent of the statute is to allow officials to meet privately with counselors and advisors in order to discuss public policy, formulate plans of action, and generally to have an exchange of ideas, which is what occurred in our closed session. Thank you.